Billy Bragg, and that goes out to our good buddy Barry Crimmins, who passed away yesterday. Longtime friend and guest on this show, and of course, one of the great honors of our life to know him. This is the Bennington Show. I'm Ron Bennington. There's Gail Bennington, and I'm Ron Bennington. So tough league to get a hit in today. Good guy. And, of course, a legendary comedian, activist, mischief maker. He was a complicated man, and I'll say that is because I feel like I'm pretty complicated myself. There's always some people that it's very, very difficult to say, oh, this is who they were. You know what I mean? And but we sure had a ton of laughs with Barry, and I think learned quite a bit about being a person.
Yeah, it's hard to put into words what an impact that guy had on comedy, but also just as a person. It's crazy that we got to know him and be friends with him, and the amount of love and support he gave each of us in this room is just pretty phenomenal, considering the kind of person he was. Yeah. Like, that he was able to give so much. And yeah, he was really a generous person, so incredibly supportive of young people in the scene, which I just thought was the sweetest thing. I mean, I remember, how much it meant to me that he had been so encouraging to me when I first started doing this show. But that's like not a unique story for Barry, because he does that for a lot of people. And
generations of people.
Yeah.
Call Me Lucky is this mind-blowing documentary that somebody who was a young man that Barry put on stage, the great director Bobcat Goldthwait. And it was Bobcat and Barry's wife that were with him when he passed yesterday, which is really, really touching. I think we're going to play tonight at some point the Unmasked that we did with them. That was so incredibly difficult. And because, those guys had just been through so much that by the time they got to our show to promote it, they were just dish rags, man. Just dish rags. When you do, Barry's life about being abused as a kid, and the fact that he became like a champion for kids in the early days of the internet, and at the same time being this, brilliant comic, and something I never want to overlook. He was behind the plate. He was a catcher. He was a guy who played the game. And, Lord knows I don't like to give any favor to a Yankees fan, because, what a lucky life he's had. Call him lucky. But I always felt like he always carried that physicality of a ball player. And I will tell you and Chris that he liked you two so much that he ended up talking about you guys every time I talked to him. He always got a kick out of the both of you.
Yeah, he was so incredibly kind like that. Always so open to share the way he feels. Which is, like, of course, an amazing thing when he loves you, and probably a really difficult thing when he doesn't. But he had a way about him of just being just so open and welcoming to people, that he really just immediately after meeting him, he just made me feel like I was his friend. And he did the same to Jack, which he was so sweet and really loved Jack. So I'll always appreciate I'll always appreciate that about him. But he also, like, his openness like that, and having been a survivor of sexual abuse, I actually watched people come up and disclose to him their own personal stories. And so he kind of was like this catcher in the rye of like just heartbreak. So, you know, when you talk about him being so exhausted about, you know, that kind of kept, especially after the documentary, because he would constantly get messages from people who wanted to say, look, this is my story, and now I know somebody who also has the same story or something similar. So he really was so kind to people like that. Because
that's a lot to carry, man.
It really is. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy from a person who has their own stuff to deal with, who has their own stuff, but then to say, I will be open to hearing all of those details. I mean, it really shocked me, watching people do it, coming up to him after a show and just saying, hey, I just want to let you know, and telling him their story. And, I imagine that was very exhausting, but he was so willing to do that.
Yeah, it was in his, character to do that for other people. And it was one of the great lines that he had was about that if you, and this I think is when they gave him that Lifetime Achievement Award in Boston. I'm just going to paraphrase it rather than looking it up. But like, if you help people that are in more shape than you are right now, you won't have to look for a leader, you'll be a leader. You know what I mean? And he really believed in that, and that kind of kindness. And I don't think it was in his nature to be that way. I think it was in his nature to be a street guy. You know what I mean? And this, that everything that he did that we think of as kindness was always with purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, so you know how you meet some people and they just find the good side of things. I think Barry had a lot of darkness, and that's why I call him complicated. And I think his life could have went, well, that's what the whole title of Call Me Lucky is, that he didn't give in to the darkness. But
right.
I felt like he fought it, every single day.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when I say like his kindness and openness, like there also is just a strength to that, like that. It's not just about being mushy with people or being emotional with people, but when someone needed him, and that goes from the point of survivors to just people who were young comics who would just come up to him and need somebody who would be a mentor. He wasn't like soft or easy on anybody, but he was really strong.
He was, and it's why. And I'm glad that I said it to him for years, is like that whole Boston scene, the ripple effect of Barry starting that about how you were supposed to behave as a comic. It was almost like there was a knighthood about it. Like it was an honorable position, and you don't go and do things that disparage the stage and the microphone. And it's a very, if you think about it, such a unique thing, because I can't say it for any other city, but all the guys that came out of Boston, and it's not even the ones that Barry didn't mentor, because they got mentored by somebody that Barry mentored. So here we are, probably closing in on 40 years after he started that stuff at the Ding Ho, that people are in Boston are still playing by those unwritten rules of what it takes. You got to be original. You don't just go for the laugh. You got to say something, and those guys have always been incredibly loyal to Barry too. I know when he was having some troubles finding insurance and stuff like that, Louis C.K. offered him a writing job so he could be on that plan. And I mean, it was just the way people were to him. Like I said, Bobcat was always incredibly grateful and respectful, and making that unbelievably beautiful and funny and, quite frankly, complicated movie. You know what I mean? Like they didn't whitewash the stuff that we were talking about earlier. You know what I mean? They put it all out there. So Barry Crimmins, and we talked about this this morning, is that we will do a special honoring his work, but we're in no condition to do that today. We're just going to feel like we feel today. But I will say this. You can take heart that Barry is safe in sweet Jesus' arms today.
Oh, Lord, cradleth him.
He's home now with the Lord. And when he even announced online, he was like, "Don't give me your prayers."
Yeah, he did. What you were saying about his his standards and his principles for comedy.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I thought was so great, is that he was really open and ready to kind of give young comedians encouragement, but that also meant like being really stern with them, and having real things like, hey, I think, he didn't want to be the kind of comic who's like, hey, I've been around this a long time, I don't need to talk to a kid like that. Right. But he'll also tell that kid, like, what you're doing is not good.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Which I thought was great. I mean, I saw him once, a bunch of young guys had been coming up to him after the show, and he was taking the time, but then one of them just like kind of rubbed him the wrong way, and I watched him go real rough on this kid. And the kid was just being kind of arrogant and just being kind of like, hey, pretty good set, instead of just being like
a person.
I think he wanted to be one of the guys too hard and not realizing that was never going to impress Barry at all. Because he was just like, oh, did you think it was okay? Like, it was okay to you? Did I do some interesting stuff? I mean, he was really laid into this dude.
Yeah, and even when we were at Moon Tower, remember he had a scuffle because his time was cut short.
Yeah.
And he would I think he threw his pass, and then he said that there wouldn't even be comedy festivals if it wasn't for guys like me. And when he told me about it, I'm like, dude, I always want to go short. Just shorten it up as much as you can.
It's funny. I was thinking this morning about a memory of him at Moon Tower that is kind of shows that like gruffer side of Barry, which was on the last night. There was just this really great dance party, and everyone was having such a great time. And you look around the room, and everybody's smiling and laughing and on the dance floor, and Barry like kind of sidles up to me, and he's having a beer, and I put my hand on his back, and he's just like, why are they playing this music? I mean, what happened to live music? Where is the band? Okay. And like, meanwhile, everyone is going crazy and having a fun time. Yeah. And I'm just like, just have fun, Barry. And he's just like, no, instead he's just upset at like the decline of music in this country, instead of just being like, hey, what a nice night.
Oh, I agree with both of you. I am on the side of both of you on that one. So Barry Crimmins passed away yesterday, and the ironic thing is he was taking care of his wife who had cancer when he found out about this. And it just, life, you know what I mean? It just kicks you so hard sometimes. Just kicks you so hard. And I mean, we've certainly lost a giant as a comedian, but also as just a pal of ours. We're not going to make we're never going to fill that void. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I will tell you this, and because I remember the first time that he reached out to contact me, he had sent it to the Twitter account, and I'm not on Twitter, so it got passed over. And, he was just so kind. And I was just staring at this Twitter because to me, Barry was always a legend. I was, started comedy in Florida and had a club. And all the Boston comics were just killers. And they name checked him over and over and over as a way of saying everything that we were doing in our scene was shit and his was so much better. And, we were going through it. I'm like, there used to be even a thing called a Boston style of a show. At least that's what people in Florida called it, where you didn't have an MC and each comic brought the other comic up. And I'm like, well, I got to tell you, I don't have a ton of great comedians that I could just,
Right.
throw this many on stage. I'm going to get a headliner and then scramble, you know what I mean, when I put on my show. But he was always like this mythical figure. So when he reached out and said, that he listens to the show and would love to, just talk sometime, I was like, what? I mean, it was stunning to me. And, he was always a guy that when he came on the show, he would be funny and then also at the same time have this moral core that was tough to live up to. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It was tough to live up to because I'll go for the cheap joke. I'm not going to, you know what I mean? I'm going to go for the cheap joke.
His love for you and respect for you was just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Well, it's unbelievable that he would want to be friends with me. I really was really, really moved by that.
I think that's also why I was so touched when he reached out to me, because I knew how much he loved your show. Yeah. So the fact that he included me in that was just so...
Dude, he was crazy about you.
It was so sweet because, even when we had spoke to Bobcat just before the Unmasked, even Bobcat was just saying the way he speaks about Ron is just like he loves him so much.
And I would say that he felt that way about you. And Chris, he saw everything in Chris that I did, that if we all would have been the same age, we would have buddied around together. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there was that thing that he would just, look at Chris and just be like, oh my God. You know what I mean? It's so strange. But Chris contacted me today and said, do you want to do something for Barry today? And we were just like, I don't know if we can. Wow, did you see who just walked by?
I missed it.
The bride.
Uma?
Yeah. Uma just walked by on her way to EW, I guess.
Sandra.
Sandra.
Mm.
That's two sexy ladies together. Congratulations to that show. So yeah, Chris, that was very, very cool that you had a chance to be pals with him.
It was strange. It was amazing and strange that he did like me so much. And I was lucky enough to share a smoke with the man, share a drink with the man. He was on a Periscope show with me. It was a mind fuck.
He thought that those Periscope shows were hilarious. And you just talked to him, a month ago for the Super Bowl stuff?
Yeah, guys, a Super Bowl prediction. For the special.
There's stuff up on the iBang, and there'll be more coming up there as well. But Chris, put up that picture of Gail and Barry together that Gail just put on her Twitter. Because I don't know if I ever saw that before, or if I did, it didn't resonate as deeply as it does today. Is that Montreal?
That's Montreal. And that's Barry and I at the big party in Montreal.
I love that picture.
Yeah, me too. Man, what a great dude. Just the best.
Oh man. So I'm into this is something that Barry sent me in January. I would say off the record, and it says, Ron, Helen is miraculously and against all odds getting much better. I've been feeling quite poorly, but was distracted by Helen's illness. On Tuesday, I went to the doctor, and the good news is it's not psychosomatic. The bad news is I have untreatable liver cancer. I'm writing to see if I could do some phonos with you so I can have some fun, be funny, and work with some people who are dear to me. I do not want to be pitiful and carried. If my calls do well, we'll do more. If not, that's it. But I miss performing. I miss the camaraderie I feel when we click on the air. So let me know what you think. And then he writes some very kind things as he's to do. And of course, we never really got around to do those calls. I wrote back to him, And by the way, I can't tell you how much fun it was that he would check in and do stuff with us. Truly one of the best. And we talked about this. We'll do a special on him, but that'll come later. Tonight they're going to play the Unmasked. What time?
8 p.m.
8 p.m. Is that 8 p.m. in the West, Chris?
8 p.m. in the East.
Oh, that's highly unusual. It's an odd time. And the funny thing is that was like a heartbreaking hour because Barry and Bobcat had just done Call Me Lucky. And this, first of all, God bless Bobcat for being able to do something like this for his friend. Because it's just extraordinary. I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal. And it created a great deal of what Gail talked about earlier with people just wanting to reach out to Barry and connect with him. And I'm talking about survivors and families of survivors. And it's also very funny and it's very Barry in a lot of places. And as a matter of fact, there was interest in them doing a film and about this, like a real film, where some producers and some names have come up who would star in it. And I'm sure that's never going to be off the table. I mean, it's such a great,
it really
unbelievable
is.
story. But he said to me, they're, and this is how funny he was. He was like, yeah, they're interested in making a movie, a real, Hollywood film about America's favorite rape baby. So who knows whether it'll happen or not. But so the day that we did the Unmasked, they were part of it. You know what I mean? Like normally Barry would just be in New York and stop in and see us or call us from the road. But they were actually doing a tour of, a media tour. And so you're doing a lot of shows with interviewers that aren't necessarily the best, and they're just saying, so,
what happened?
What happened? So was it just, anal, or was it, whatever, these blunt fucking things. And it was just beating the shit out of him as it was. And I've done things before where people will ask me something that's far too blunt, and it just that they never would in real life. You know what I mean? Like somebody wouldn't say that to you, but because you're on the air, they can ask you about, a friend who passed away or something like that. It just comes out of nowhere. And, this was Barry's life. And it just, when I saw the two of them, I'm like, oh, they both were just, like I said earlier, dish rags, man. They just, all the energy was out of them. And they had sent out for like a sixer for Barry, just to try to kick it back up. And we were laughing because Bobcat is long sober. You know what I mean? And he's like, yeah, I think a six-pack might be in order here. And then the funny thing that, and I said when we were sitting in the green room, it was so rough that I said, you know what, guys, we don't even have to do this. You know what I mean? Like, this is not, we'll do something again some other time, but don't feel like you have this commitment that, we have to do this because, and Bobcat was just really concerned with how frail Barry was that day. But then when we went in and did the unmasked, Bobcat was the one who broke down.
He was, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I'll just always remember the fact that they were such pros that they were like, no, let's do it. Because I was like, because we're going to do the unmasked, and that was going to be the end of their New York media day. And they would be like, hey, we'll get together finally with you. We'll have some fun. We can relax. But they had been so just torn up by repeating those stories over and over. And I don't think either one of them knew it was going to be that difficult. And then they had to go out to LA and do it, And I thought that took a real toll on both of them, particularly like here's this movie that's, getting standing ovations and everywhere. And yet it was very hard to celebrate because it was so hard.
Well, I remember that they had said too, that Bobcat had said that they kind of thought that the emotional exhaustion would happen after the movie was out. That it was emotional to make that movie about his friend. It was emotional for Barry to touch on all that stuff again. Yeah. But actually, after the edit was done and everything was done, it actually got more difficult because then it became a public conversation.
Yeah. Can you imagine? You know what I mean? This, well, that was that thing of, they always say it's better to speak out. But then, there's a lot to deal with that way as well, Yeah, he's irreplaceable, man.
Yeah, there is no one on earth like that dude. No one.
No. So funny too, man. Such a funny guy. And like I said, he always brought up Chris to me. He always brought up Gail. He used to tease me that a coup would go on and I'd be out, and I'd be like, that would be the best day of my life. Those two just booted me off the show. But never once did he mention Vito.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
I remember he was really mad at me at Moon Tower because of Donald Trump. And the last
yeah.
Right.
He was like yelling at me.
Yeah.
Although I will say there was like this moment when we were in Montreal that it was I told this story before to you that me and Chris and Vito all went to go get our ice cream together one night.
Oh, yeah.
And so at this point, everyone's out at shows and people are already getting drunk. And he comes walking down the street and he walks up and me, Chris, and Vito each have an ice cream cone. And he's like, what is this? He's like, this is the most adorable thing I've ever seen. Like, this is just like good, clean fun. Like, you all American kids sitting here just enjoying Montreal, eating your ice cream. You look so young and fresh. I was like, wow, people normally don't say that about the three of us, but I guess we did look pretty innocent and sweet in that moment.
Because, of course, Vito, once you have something one night, he expects it every night. You know what I mean? That's the problem with traveling with Vito.
He likes tradition.
It's ice cream time. I know. Isn't tradition so damn annoying?
It is. It really is.
Mm. Wow, you guys got to have two different comedy festival experience with Barry Crimmins.
That's true.
And, Moon Tower, I know they were so excited to have him, right? And then he misbehaved a little bit.
He was riled up at that party.
Yeah. He stayed in a state that whole week.
He did.
I think I need a minute, guys. Why don't we just take a short break, and we'll be right back. And again, this is a void we can't fill. You know what I mean? But we had the experience of all knowing Barry Crimmins. It's pretty amazing. And I kind of feel like that'll only be more important as time goes on. It'll mean even more to you as time goes by. So we'll take a break, and we'll come back. Bennington. Thursday, 844 Rock God. Give us a call today. 844 Rock God. We were just talking about losing our pal Barry Crimmins. A little bit of an Irish wake feeling around here today, huh?
Yeah, it really, really is.
Remembering the old funny stories and that bittersweet thing that comes with that, you know what I mean? That you have these experiences that you probably didn't deserve to have, but then you get the receipt by losing somebody like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That that it's crazy that we got to be friends with him, and just what an amazing feeling it is to have that and those memories with him, but then how crushing it leaves you today. Just really floored.
So we're playing this, when are we playing the Unmasked?
8 p.m. in the East and 8 p.m. in the West. We'll be playing at 8 p.m. tonight.
And then Don called?
And then Don called, and he said, you asked if we could play it at 2 p.m. as well.
I don't know what we're going to do. Uh, 844 Rock God, 844 Rock God. Well, look at this famous comedian giving us a call. Really, very hilarious. Amy Miller. Amy.
Hi, guys.
Hey, buddy.
So sad today.
Yeah, it is sad.
I just, I was having a great memory of going to see him do his hour with Gail, which was such a special night. And he was so appreciative that we were there. And I just remember that he, wouldn't stop hugging us. And just thinking about that, too, as, a woman comic, I have walls up around older guys that take an interest in me. Probably because I grew up in the church. I don't know. It's just an idea. But just not something that I ever had to worry about with Barry. He was just the purest heart. And I don't think you should get a medal for not being a creep, but we're almost there, was just an angel, and that night was so special. But I was just also reminded, one of the last times I saw him in LA was when he had this benefit with Metzger, because let's not forget that Barry just got hit by a truck.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
Not that long ago, and came out of that, because he's just, after everything else. But they did a show out here, so my man and I went, and he insisted on letting us in for free, and we're like, no, Barry, this is a benefit for you. You have to let us pay.
It was after that that Ron, every time he would call, would refer to him as the late, great Barry Crimmins, which he just got the biggest kick out of and loved it so much.
How weird. Yeah. Go ahead, darling.
That night, Metzger was late because, I don't know, just Kurt being Kurt, probably an hour late for their show. I'm not sure. But it was a real weird scene, man. Just all the lights on and no mic for some reason and no house music and just this black box theater and everyone's confused about what's going on. And Barry's like, do you want to do a set? And I was like, absolutely not.
No, under no circumstance.
There was just nothing comedic about the setting at all. And I just felt like I let down my mentor in some way, because he was like, I get it, but you got to remember that you'd be funny anywhere. And that was just the kind of support that he always had for me and for my dude. Like, I talked to Gail this morning, and she said, text me when you wake up. And I was like, I haven't slept yet because my man's been asleep because he's got a normal day comedy job. And I don't want him to wake up and pick up his phone. That's like the fucking nightmare of the internet now.
Yeah.
Like, he's got to learn it, from a stranger before me. So I just had to stay up until he woke up, and it's just a rough morning.
Yeah, it's so incredibly hard. And I thought about also, the night you mentioned that we saw Barry do his hour, and we were there. And both of our guys were there, and Larry and Lori from Yonkers were there. And it was just like such a great night. It was just really sweet. And Larry had tweeted about that memory today when he had found out. And but I agree. I have the same thing with you kind of just want to stop people from finding out on the internet, because I had emailed you to check if you were awake, if you were not awake, because it's one of the worst things is when you have to see just like, it's never anything bad, but it's just like someone summing up something that you're just like, oh, I didn't want to find out that way, or someone saying it so bluntly, some stranger.
Well, your mom woke me up with, honey, wake up. Did you hear about Barry? Like, you mean recently? Something happened
Which
since
time?
Since the bad news?
Did someone hurt him?
Did Amy, you brought up a good point. The fact that he and Metzger became close, so crazy.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. And they were traveling around in a car together.
Yeah, blind leading the blind.
Yeah, that was just such a movie in itself.
It really was. Just like a very dysfunctional buddy comedy.
Yeah.
Having some young kid drive him around.
Yeah, I met that kid somewhere too, and he gave me the full story. It was just nuts. It was just crazy.
Well, you should tell him he killed Barry.
Yeah, so I think that's what shook the liver enough to get it. But how amazing that Barry got a chance to do that hour, and Louis C.K. directed it, and they did it in Lawrence, Kansas, and the hour just went perfectly. I mean, that he waited that long before doing one, and then you're watching it, and you're like, this is so great.
And it was so fantastic. It was like really produced so well, and everything. I'm glad that it came out the way it did. It really was special. You know what I mean? It felt really important, and I thought it was really great.
Yeah, I mean, he was so brave to do that documentary, and everything that came after that, I'm just really happy that he got to do. But, it feels a lot today similar to when Robin Williams passed, at least for young comics. Just everyone has this good story about, oh, he was so kind, and he said these nice words to me and told me I was funny and whatever. And it just breaks my heart for Bobcat that he seems to attract these helpers, and then he's gone through this twice in such a short period of time.
Yeah, his two best friends and two people that he probably gave the best work of their life to, that movie that Bobcat did with Robin Williams is just unbelievable. And of course, Call Me Lucky with Barry. It's crazy. And I thought of Bobcat like right off the bat too.
Yeah. It's crushing.
Yeah, it is crushing. Thanks so much, Amy.
Well, you guys, it wouldn't be a fitting Crimmins tribute if I didn't plug my upcoming dates awkwardly at the end of the call.
I think that's very important that you do that.
He'd want that,
That was
Amy.
his style. Well, next weekend, March 9th and 10th, I'll be in Seattle at Laughs Comedy Club headlining. If you guys are out there, come see me.
Wonderful.
Love you,
Love
Amy.
you guys.
I'm going to fly out for it. All right. Talk to you later,
Please
Amy.
do.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
All right. 844-ROCK-GOD is our phone number. 844-ROCK-GOD is our phone number. And I think we are going to play that Unmasked at 2 o'clock today. It was the right after the movie Call Me Lucky, and I'm so glad that movie just crushed it in film festivals and all that. And I really was expecting an Oscar nomination for it, and it didn't get it. So I know that you're not supposed to care about that, but I thought it would have been hilarious to see those guys on the red carpet.
Yeah, me too. And I really thought that it was possible. And I'm not, and you know, I honestly, if I never knew him, I would be saying that because I think it honestly deserved to be there. It was such an excellent documentary. But I even thought about that today, that if I didn't know him personally or even know his comedy, if the first time and the only time I had ever seen him was that documentary, I would still feel the way I feel today because it was that good, and it told that story of his life so incredibly.
Well, that's a lot of the people that are, you know, survivors are writing on the internet, and that's all they know about him is that documentary.
Right.
Nothing gets played in groups and stuff like that, which is, you know, again, pretty extraordinary. All right, 844 Rock God. Here's John in Minnesota. John.
Good morning, Benningtons.
Hey, man.
Hey, I just wanted to call in and say, you know, you guys are so real. I feel like I'm sitting there in the studio with you guys. Everything that you talk about is just it's so wonderful, and the amount that you care about your friends and your colleagues. As a radio listener, I seriously feel like I'm sitting in the room with you guys. It's just so fantastic. And I'm so sorry that you guys lost a good friend today. We all lost, but obviously for you guys that know, you know, very directly, it's just incredible that you share this with us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all lose friends. That's the human condition. But in this case, you know, it's something that a lot of people ended up caring about. But thank you so much. Yeah.
You listen to any other radio, you know, any other talk show, that nobody has the passion and the emotion that you guys have. And I just want you to know I'm pulling into a parking lot right now. I'm going to get out of my car. I'm going to be very careful as I get out. And I'd just like to plug, I'll be at work tomorrow. I'm so glad I got a laugh.
From 9 to 5.
You guys are awesome.
Thank you so much. You can, I'll be there from 9 to 5. Pep Boys. Probably, they got me working doorknobs for some reason. I don't understand it. It's an auto. It's an auto parts store, but they moved me over to doorknobs. Chris, why are you tapping away today?
This is just for scheduling of the Barry Crimmins Unmasked.
What did you call it? The scheduling?
Scheduling.
Why did you call it?
Are you drinking again?
Not yet.
Good for you. But today would have been a good day for it, huh?
Yeah, this would be a good
I just feel like pouring drinks down your throat so I can sit here and watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do that.
Yeah,
It's a good way to...
I'm not breaking it. I'm not breaking something for this.
It's going to break, so.
No, I don't think so.
Not this time.
I think this
stick.
time it sticks.
Mm-hmm.
844 Rock God, 844 Rock God. Brett in Canada. Brett.
Hey guys, bad day.
Yeah.
But you guys are doing really well. Definitely tell how much this guy meant to you. And especially like just the little jokes that we bring Chris in, and he's actually appreciated a little bit. And then hitting Vito really hard with how he was. Way to keep it funny, especially on a day like today.
Well, you know, thank you so much. There is always good news, and I found this out today, and I was going to wait and save it, but I feel like it's a good time to say this. It looks like we're going to be getting a new producer on the show. Hope Hicks will be joining the team. No radio experience, but she has worked in the political field, and I feel really, really good about it.
Should we then change the show to Bennington and Bennington, Hicks and Hicks?
We could start and call Hicks Hope. She was always my favorite in the whole White House.
Oh yeah, she was great.
Well, Bannon and her were my two favorites.
Right.
And the expert. What's Trump's son's name?
Barron.
You
Trump.
don't get to see him much, but he makes me
when he
smile
does
every
show
time.
up, it's great.
Apparently, he watches a lot of violent movies and video games.
Who said that?
Trump did. He's like, you wouldn't believe the violence that this kid's watching.
What? When did he say that?
He said like the last couple of days. Like he was bringing up how like violent media and video games are.
Tell him to stop.
And he brought up Barron.
Now, how did he put it?
I'll find the actual.
Yeah,
please do. But yeah, Hope Hicks is so great because she was like a movie character of, you know what I mean? Like she looked like an actress in that role. That's what Jen was saying yesterday. If you look at pictures of her, it looks like someone cast a Hollywood actress to play that role.
Yeah, I mean, it's stunning. She was 26 when she started that and had no experience in any of this kind of stuff. It's just that, the Trumps trusted her. Look, turn around. There's Zuma.
Oh, there she is. Wow, she looks great.
Yeah, she looks fantastic.
Not that I would expect anything else, but she just looked so good in person. So stylish.
She was lost in my neighborhood looking for a hospital one time.
Oh, really?
Pretty exciting. There was a lot of buzz. Everybody's like, I got to tell Uma where the hospital was.
She's very thankful.
It was quite the buzz of the neighborhood.
This is what Trump said. The video games, the movies, the internet stuff is so violent. It's so incredible. I see it. I get to see things that you'd be amazed at. I have a very young son, and I look at some of the things he's watching, and I say, how is that possible? And this is what kids are watching.
Yeah.
He's tapped in.
You know what, Donald? That TV of yours is not a babysitter, okay? Let's keep an eye on the expert.
That's why he gets so confused when Kathy Griffin is doing her thing. He thinks it's all real. Like he shouldn't be watching.
Is real.
He shouldn't be watching violence. He doesn't know what's real and what's not.
He shouldn't be watching the Kathy Griffin show on. What did she run on? Was it E?
E.
Mm-hmm.
No, Bravo.
Oh yeah, because she worked for
Andy Cohen.
Yeah. I tried to give her Coke once or whatever she was saying.
Just take it.
That's what I've never been mad at somebody. Even when I got sober, I'm like, well, at least they're asking. You know?
I mean, it's only right for the host.
Nice of him. She's doing him a favor.
Eric, what's up?
Hey, Ron. Hey, I heard a rumor that that you guys might be coming to Orlando, and also that Opie and Anthony might be coming back to Sirius XM.
Both those rumors are true.
Oh.
And we wanted to keep them both quiet, but
and I fucked it up.
Yeah, you did fuck it up. But yes, O&A are coming back to Sirius XM to do their show.
Yeah.
And it's called the All Is Forgiven channel. And then the Bennington show will go to Orlando, where we will be doing a show called The World of Disney. And we'll be doing that out of Disney World.
This would be exciting for me.
Let me just say this. Universal theme park, we're coming for your asses, all right? You won't be getting any fucking sleep.
What about Epcot?
Epcot is part of Disney.
I didn't know that.
It's part of the Disney
How do you
family.
not know that?
I don't know what all of the parks are.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have you go to SeaWorld and work with the seals. Just shoveling
It's still open?
dead fish. Yes, SeaWorld is still open. I think it's the number 4 theme park
All right.
in Orlando. I'll have to ask Jen that. I know she keeps a top 10 list at all times.
She definitely does.
She likes Universal. She's kind of our Hope Hicks.
She really is. She is.
And then, of course, Chris has always been our dope picks. All right, 2:00, we're playing that thing today. I just say that thing. So stupid.
No, you're being hard on yourself.
Well, if I don't, nobody will, you know? Jen, if we do a movie, and it looks pretty good that I will be doing a movie on the White House, you'll play the part of Hope Picks.
I'd be glad to.
Did you like her style?
Love her. She's so pretty. So pretty. And just so put together. I really like it.
But why is she always dating wife beaters?
Well, I think she dated... Well, was the campaign manager that first guy?
Well, he hit that girl at Breitbart. Remember, he swatted a girl from Breitbart.
Oh.
Yeah. So they already said he was quick to lay hands on the chicks, and then that other guy was just like straight out of a Julia Roberts movie. And he was just fucking scary as shit.
He had like 3 ex-wives come out against him.
Yeah, and they all said the same thing. He hit me with the phone. But she didn't have good style, right?
I think she had a
Oh, okay.
I think she was a model before. Yeah, she was a model.
Yeah, she was a working model, they like to say. She was a working model. I don't know, a lot of models, I guess, don't work.
Yeah, most of them are just hanging out.
Yeah.
They just say they're a model. Most of them just have Instagram accounts.
I guess you do have to specify that now. I'm a model on Instagram. I have a lot of followers. No one
Right.
pays me, but
Yeah.
I do take a lot of selfies.
You can almost see my nipples in a lot of these shots. I'm in the bathtub with my nipples barely coming out of the
show
sun.
them.
Oh, I want to say that so bad. You know what the odd thing is? When Hope Hicks was a model, plus size.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
she
strange.
was very, very thick in high school. 240.
That's
Yeah, and she was short then. And then one day she just sprouted up and lost the weight. I got pictures everywhere. They said that one of the reason that she quit is that Trump yelled at her the day that she did the 8 hours with the with Mueller or whoever she was with. Maybe she was with the Congress. But I would never want to have to be in one of those situations.
No.
And then get yelled at just for telling people I lied for you.
Do you think that she's going to get like a fun nickname like when he does when people turn on him?
No. Because I think he adores her.
I was kind of hoping that it was going to be Hopeless Hicks.
Well, I would like that. Let's just act like she says stuff. I mean, I don't see her going out and saying bad stuff like Omarosa did.
Yeah.
Who knows, though? I can't keep up with this White House. But I will tell you this. His friends, Trump's friends, the people that are loyal to him, suffer way more than his enemies. You know, those are the people. And I was just telling Nick this the other night, and he agreed with me. They're the ones that get ground under the steel wheels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're the ones that eventually get pulled under the train.
You're too close to the fire.
Yeah, you enjoy it for a while. Then you get sucked down under the wheels. Maybe Alice Cooper should write some kind of song about that, Under My Wheels by Donald Trump. Even though I know he's not political at all. He hates politics. Look what it is. It's our friend Julian. Hey, Julian.
Hey, Ron. Hey, Gail.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm really sorry for your loss, guys. I heard of Barry through you guys on the show, and he was always a really funny, amazing guest, and all his work has been so incredible. And I'm really sad right now. I just heard, and I'm really sad.
Yeah, it's sad.
I really feel it. I'm really sorry, guys, that this has happened today.
Yeah, it's sad, buddy.
Yeah, it's been really hard. There's been a lot of comedy losses in the past few years, and I think everyone has been just more difficult than the last to deal with, and it's just because of this. You know, you're not going to hear their voices anymore talk about things, and that hurts so badly.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, I just wanted to say that, and I really love you guys. And
thanks, pal.
As always, you have an amazing show, and I love you, and I'll keep listening forever.
All right, thank you, my
Bye,
friend.
Bennington.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, I thought about that too because Barry always was so, active on Twitter and would be tweeting when when you would get to hear his voice about something. It's really hard to lose that as well.
Sure.
Just a comedic voice, just a smart person who always had something to say, and it's hard to think that we don't get to hear that anymore.
Well, we said that he's a sweetheart, but just go back and look at his Twitter now, and he's just like bashing, the NRA.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He'll battle on.
He's tough as hell.
Shrekalov wanted to remind everybody that not only is Amy Miller going to be in Seattle, but she'll be in Phoenix in March for the Bird City Comedy Fest, and I plan on giving her a awkward, creepy old man hug. It's nice.
It's nice.
Oh, tomorrow we're going to run a special that we put together with Joe List,
Doug Benson.
Yeah. Just because I pause for a moment doesn't mean that you jump in, Chris.
Go ahead.
I apologize.
You keep doing that.
Let me take it from the top. We'll be doing an Oscar special.
Yeah.
With Joe List, Doug Benson, and
G-Baby.
Why are you doing that, dude? Doing what I call the Oscar pause.
I didn't know that was the Oscar pause.
And then the Independent Spirit Awards are the same day.
Oh, are they earlier in the day?
Yeah, and that's those two guys that you guys went to see on Broadway that you love so much. Oh, you guys went to Broadway.
Oh,
Nick Kroll and
too
John
much
Mulaney.
tuna.
Too much tuna. Yeah, Nick Kroll and John Mulaney.
Vito, we were just pausing. We didn't need you to jump in and say it.
And are you going to wear that Knicks hat for the rest of the year?
No, I'm buying a new hat today, actually. I'm picking up 2 Mets hats at Lids.
I don't think it was appropriate.
He was
today.
wearing a Golden State Warriors hat last season, so he's just full of shit.
I like hats.
You can't be just a fan of hats.
I love hats.
Can I tell you something? Barry died and he was an American League guy. How about you wear a Yankees hat for him?
Do it.
You should do it.
I'll wear a different American League hat.
Bo Sox?
I could do Bo Sox.
He hated them.
Why would you choose that?
How do you feel about the Cleveland Indians?
How does anybody feel about them?
Losers.
Feel sad.
We're not trying to feel more sad, Vito.
White Sox hat?
White Sox?
What? You're going to wear a hat from Chicago. You wear a Cubs hat.
I always like the Sox more than the Cubs.
You like the Sox? Have you been to both stadiums?
Yeah, I've been to both.
And you enjoy being at a White Sox game more than a Cubs game?
It was a really weird thing where I was on the train to the White Sox game and I was with a guy who lives in Southside, and like I felt a lot closer to the game because as we're going, he's pointing out to the train like, I went to high school with that kid. I've known that kid my whole life as we're pulling up the stations, and it just felt a lot like more intimate and closer.
It's the oddest story I've ever heard in my life.
That's not a reason to like a baseball team.
You don't even watch baseball, so
I
shut
watch
up.
it all the time. Love
Guys,
Hey.
this isn't a day to fight.
Thank you.
Barry passed away.
Sorry, Barry.
But you know how much Barry loved Chris.
He does.
Yeah.
I don't think he could pick you out of a lineup.
He hated you.
Well, I don't think he hated. I think he just ignored. He just thought of him as vanilla as his ice cream.
He didn't like my political leanings.
Thanks for going with the bit on that too.
Yeah.
Not fucking correcting him.
I know that was difficult for you. I know.
It really hurt, but he was like in my face. He was like, "You're just such a good person. I know you're a good person. Why the fuck would you do this?" And I was like, "Hey, man,
You know what?
I just want
Let's
it to
not
be
speak
great."
out of school. The man just passed away. All right. Let's not Aretha Franklin record.
Mhm.
You know, a guy your youth, you should be more hurt than what you are. A person like me that's sat there and felt like death has been a passenger for quite a few years. I'm used to it. I am the passenger. All right. I'm looking up at this. Kushner's business got $500 million in loans after White House meetings. I don't think that that's illegal. I think
it's probably okay.
You could call someone into the White House and say, look, you got to help me.
I don't think he would have done it if it was illegal.
No. Immoral? Yes. Illegal? Contraire. Chris, I think I need another break, buddy.
Okay.
I don't want to be breaking on you too much today, but
it's fine.
You're going to give me a live read?
Yeah.
Chris, that's not appropriate for
we
right
lost
now.
Barry.
I know.
How do you live with yourself?
I don't know how he does it. I really don't.
Oh, you know what? Let's send some live reads over to the funeral for Chris. You know what? You're off the special.
No.
Vito, congratulations.
He doesn't know. He wasn't even friends with Barry. I was.
Yeah, I know, but you're too close.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
He's making this about him.
Yeah, you're making it about you.
I'm not trying to make it about me.
You're not.
Vito's right. You're garbage.
No.
Between this and the live reads, I mean, you're really off.
Is it live reads or live reads? I can never figure that out.
I usually say, like, I just live read something.
Because, like, if you read something and then if you have read something, it's spelled exactly the same.
That's very confusing. That's not a good system.
It's the worst. It should be read it. I readed it. Well, I'll tell you this. I feel so bad because I know Barry was looking forward to this. Tonight, there's a great new comedy coming to NBC called A.O. Bio. It starts Glenn Howerton, and it's from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia as Jack Griffin, a disgraced Harvard philosophy scholar who ends up teaching advanced placement biology at a high school in Toledo.
Except he has no interest whatsoever in teaching the kids biology. Instead, he'd prefer to use the smartest kids in school to help him get his revenge on his academic rival. And believe me, Jack will stop at nothing to get his revenge.
AP Bio is smart, it's outrageous, and I think you'll agree it's funny in a sick, twisted kind of way. AP Bio also stars comedy legend Patton Oswalt as the school principal doing his best to keep Jack in line. The show is from executive producer Seth Meyers and Lorne Michaels from SNL. I'm sorry, you're right, that's yours.
Critics are raving that AP Bio is hilarious and laugh out loud funny. You won't want to miss this show. Catch the premiere of AP Bio starring Glenn Howerton and Patton Oswalt tonight on NBC.
A little bit of an Irish wake today for our really good friend and just great guest of ours, Barry Crimmins. Such a buddy, such a good dude. And Gail, you were saying off the air just how weird it is, just that life is like this itself.
Yeah, it's just such a hard thing to think. Like when it really sunk in for me, is I was just thinking, like, can't believe I'm not gonna see that guy again. I can't believe I'm not gonna talk to that guy again. And I know everybody goes through that when you go
Right.
through a loss. That's the shocking thing of it, is that you cannot believe that you don't get the privilege to connect with that person again. And it was always the best is that, when we were able to, get in touch with each other, he would always reach out to me. And the last time I spoke to him was, he was congratulating us on the big Eagles win and was saying how much he knows it means to my family and to Jack. And it was just so sweet. And I can't believe I'm not going to see that guy's face anymore.
I know.
It's really, really heartbreaking.
Yeah, and then that, it always, you realize, like, when somebody dies like that, it also brings back all the other losses that you've had before.
Yeah.
And like even when I had heard that Barry passed away, it immediately took me back to when Fez died, and just that feeling that you get.
Fez didn't die.
Yeah, he did. 6 months ago.
Oh shit.
like you should have told everyone.
He was living a very private life, and I respected it. So 2 people asked me to keep a secret, and I kept both. Yeah, are you resentful that I never told you when Barry told me?
No, I wasn't, because you told me just before, once you knew that he was going to start telling people.
Yeah, when he was telling people, I told you, but it was a while. I love keeping a secret.
You do, yeah. But then, so you said to me,
the guy who keeps secrets.
A little something you didn't know that I knew, but I'll tell you now. So when you had, said to me that he had come to you in confidence, but you said, I believe he's at the point now where he's going to say it, but you wanted
telling people.
But you wanted to make sure that you put it in a way for the same reason that you don't want to see something on the internet for the first time, or hear it in a bad way. So you were able to say.
Well, there was also a hopeful chance that he would be able to have a liver transplant, and I always feel like science now.
Yeah,
I'm just always thinking science is so much better than it used to be, and it is, but. He went pretty quick after finding out.
That was very fast. It was really, really fast. And even though when he finally went on Twitter and kind of shared it with the world, I think he had said, he had told his mom, so now he can tell people. He wanted to make sure he had told everyone important first. I think that there's always, even when he is honest and saying, like, this doesn't look good, this is a bad situation, everybody always thinks, but it's going to be okay, right? Like, you still kind of feel that way. Or even if you start to think...
Because people have gotten years out of things or whatever.
Definitely. And so, I thought maybe that there would be a longer battle with this. So it was...
Well, Barry wasn't a fighter. I know everyone says at a funeral he was such a fighter. But, he went quick. Fez dragged off. I mean, it was excruciating with Fez, which, it might seem funny to you, but for me, was a living hell. But I will say this, and I never bring it up to you guys because he asked me not to. These are his shoes. I took them right off him. I took them right off of him on his deathbed.
It doesn't seem like you should do that. Did he want you to do that?
He didn't say not to. And these things I've admired for a long time. They're beautiful. Slip-ons. Honey, where are my slip-ons? Or... No, I agree with you. When you lose somebody, it makes the whole concept of life seem weird. And then when you have a guy like Barry who won't even let you do the "we'll see you again someday on the other side of the creek" bit, you know what I mean? We need that. You know what I mean? We need that.
That's for us.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
That's for the survivors. That would be hilarious if they gave him a Catholic burial.
Yeah, I know. Well, everyone, of course, was tweeting today or saying to me that they're hoping that he finally gets his excommunication that he's been wanting for so long.
If the church would just finally do what he asked. We're going to play his Unmasked with Bobcat Goldthwait at 2. And then it plays at what times, Chris?
8 p.m. and 11 p.m. on the East.
Just so that runs perfectly, I want you in here all night.
I'll do that for Barry.
Don't do it for Barry. Do it for your job.
Oh, gotcha.
Because you're on the bubble, my friend.
I didn't realize.
Especially since they found out you've been stealing.
I have not been stealing.
Well, somebody here has been stealing, and they're certainly going to blame it on you.
I don't blame them for blaming all the bad things around here on me, sure. But this one I didn't do.
Seems like you did.
I'm proud of you for handling this sober.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stone cold.
The way you just said that made it sound like you're lying.
I know.
Like, most people don't have to specify that.
I feel like I have to, though, for me.
Yeah. When's the last time you had a drink? Who was president? Was it Obama, or you go back to the Bush years?
That was the Super Bowl the last time I had a drink.
Blew up in your face, didn't it? You were such a Patriots fan.
Oh, I love Tom Brady.
Suck on Nick and his oversized dick.
Can't even fit into my mouth.
Oh, God, Chris.
That took it way too far.
Disgusting.
I apologize.
He doesn't have a chode. All I mean, the penis you're talking about now is horrific.
It's large, but it is proportioned.
Yes, well proportioned, balanced. So much. You could put one of those things right on it. I forget what those the carpenters use them.
A level?
Level. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you both.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you both from the bottom of my heart. Maybe we should send some chili over to the house. That way you'll have it if you need it. When anybody used to die in my neighborhood, just crock pots of chili would show up. And they're like, here, it's here if you need it. I'll come back later for the pot. I'm like, yeah, put it next to the other 7 pots of fucking chili. I go, what's this look like, a firehouse? We're people. We're human people. And guess what? Your chili blows. One lady actually said this. I made some chili con carne. That's what some people would call it when I was younger. Did you ever hear the whole... What does that even fucking mean?
With meat. Chili with meat.
What? If not, it's just beans. It's a plate of beans.
I made some beans and sauce for you.
Here, I got another loaf of Italian bread, too, because you can dip it right in the chili.
Didn't think of that.
I put it on. It's already on warm. When you're done, just please wash it, and then I'll be back to pick it up. And I'd always be like, just chili? We don't have anything else? Something on the side for us to enjoy?
Also, you need some vegetables at some point. I mean, you're just eating straight chili for weeks.
We're just having straight meat and beans. Here's meat and beans for everybody.
It's really proteining it up.
Did you see my pot is right back there in the middle of all the other crock pots? I understand we blew a fuse. Do people even have a crock pot anymore?
I think people still make a crock pot dinner.
I'll tell you this, I'd be willing to put my fucking head in that crock pot before I ate another bowl of chili. My fucking grandmother died. I didn't end up joining some Wild West show where a guy pulls up the fucking wagon kitchen and we all just sit and eat chili all night. Yeah. Definitely, kid.
Yep.
I thought we'd be mourning Chris by now.
I know. Me too.
The lifestyle he's lived.
Yeah. Somehow I'm still going.
Oh, you got a paper too. Mueller wants to talk to you.
What?
Yeah.
I ain't gonna pull a whole Pix. Keep my fucking mouth shut.
Let's not blame her. She's a kid.
I'll do time. I don't give a fuck.
Jesus, Chris.
Chris, come on.
What?
It's not that kind of day.
Okay.
It's not a day for you to brag about your ability to do time. He always says this, I got more time than money, so lock my ass up. I ain't paying the fine. He's the only guy I know who's willing to go and do a weekend in jail over a parking ticket. He goes, $45. Your time isn't worth $22.50 a day?
It's just a weekend.
Wouldn't it be great if when Hope Hicks left the White House, she rode a bike out of there? Just had her hair up in pigtails and just riding a bike.
Hell?
I guess she's back in New York, right? Her people live in the city?
Yeah.
Washington Post. Hope Hicks told the truth about lying for Trump. Now she's gone. She's gone.
Scaramucci made a statement about her saying he thought she did a great job.
Yeah, he blamed it all on John Kelly. Called him an ill-begotten son of a bitch.
Sounds like Scaramucci.
We ought to send Vito over there, stand outside the Fox thing and try to get on TV one day.
I'd love to.
We gotta dress up as something funny, though.
Like a kangaroo?
No, just like yourself.
Okay.
You know, the way you normally walk around. Fucking Zubaz pants.
I love
Wife
Zubaz.
beater, Mets hat.
Orange blue Zubaz.
Yeah, big hairy shoulders. Vito's a good-looking kid, though.
Yeah, he is.
Thank you. I try.
Looking good with the hair. Too.
You watching AP Bio tonight?
Of course, I'm watching AP Bio Thursday nights on NBC.
I guess that was the last read for it today, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
After reviews come in.
I think that we'll probably be doing a read for every episode.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Just the plot for the next episode.
Well, it's week 7 of AP Bio. Kind of sad today, huh?
Yeah. It's a really rough one. And I just feel so drained now. Like, even when we first saw each other, we looked at each other and I could see we're like, man, we don't want to have this day today. It's just so hard.
You're a great dude. You see a sack of shit like Chris that just seems to live forever. Everything goes his way.
Doesn't seem right.
Living high in the hog.
Mm. Well, we'll be playing that unmasked, which is pretty sad in its own case. At 2:00.
Yeah, I mean, even if this wasn't this day, I can't guarantee it wouldn't be crushing to you. It is.
Yeah,
it's really difficult. That documentary is so difficult. Like, I really recommend people see it, but I also have said to people, like, hey, just make sure you're in the okay headspace to do it, that you're ready to. Because I remember feeling that way when he had reached out to me and he sent me a screener so I could see it before the Unmasked. And I remember feeling like, is tonight an okay night? Am I solid enough to take this on? Because I knew it was going to be heartbreaking.
Dude, I watched that, and we're talking about the Call Me Lucky, Barry Crimmins documentary, but I watched it with my abuser. And I'm like, the whole time I'm just looking at him like,
see?
Yeah, I wish he would have left one broad comedy behind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something nice and silly. Chris, if we were to make a documentary out of your life, what would the focus be?
I think my career. And that'd be nice.
You honestly refer to this as your career.
Maybe up front, like about my childhood. Though there's not many people that you can actually talk to about that, or pictures.
We have some. We have some good ones.
We'll just have Gail dress up.
It's just reenactment. The whole thing is reenactment.
That just reminded me that Vito is the only person who didn't get a laugh on Thanksgiving. That thing just laid there as you came out as Doc. What was his name? Doc Brown? Were you shocked?
Yeah, I didn't know what was happening. I just ran out there in my Doc Brown costume.
I mean, you didn't know what was happening. You're a performer.
I mean, like, I couldn't hear anything during the dance segment, so the Doc Brown thing in my ears got the same exact reception.
You're like, did you step off? Like, that went great, right?
People went crazy during the dance bit.
Yeah, they were going nuts.
I don't even know if we ever properly followed the dance bit. We might have had to get all the way to Chip Chippison.
We opened very big.
Yeah. I kind of knew that was going to be big. And you know, there's a lot to be said for these two guys when I said, look, you're going to be doing a 1980s hip hop thing. But they both went, okay.
I tore my pants off for these people. And mostly myself.
Yeah, I didn't think that part was going to work. And there was an explosion in the room. People were excited when you pulled the pants off. And I'm like, that's a little too dumb. Nope, you were right. And then someone else had to bring up to me, maybe it was Don. Then they go, and then Chris stayed on stage in his underwear.
Yeah, that's the part that was great, is that we didn't really think about the fact that he had to do the whole...
It didn't seem weird.
the whole first act in his underpants.
Well, boxer briefs are, you know what I mean? It's like wearing a bathing suit.
Yeah, you were wearing
Boxers
trunks.
seem weird, and, you know, tighty whities are weird. But a boxer brief, no, I'm not. I wouldn't be offended if somebody just wore them to work.
The boxers are I can't believe I wore them for so long.
Yeah, they're ridiculous.
They're just the worst underpants.
They're useless. You just said underpants.
Of all the underpants, it's the worst.
Yeah.
Out of all the other pants. All right, so tomorrow is going to be our Oscar show. Chris, tell everybody who's going to be on.
Mr. Joe List, Doug Benson, and G Baby.
And then, do me a favor and look up the Independent Spirit Awards. No one even cares about that anymore.
No, they don't.
Because there's no way to know if something's independent or not, since Jennifer Aniston is normally in it. You know what I mean? That was the point for me when they were like, this is Jennifer Aniston film. And like, how is she independent? My best feature, Call Me By Your Name, Florida Project, Get Out, Lady Bird. And the writer is the only one I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that either.
Go to the actors now. No, go to director first. Sean Baker, Florida Project. What's this film? Chiambra?
Ciambra, maybe?
Get Out, Good Time, I don't know, and the writer. All right, go down to actor. Oh, we'll go to male lead. Beach Rats. Get Out, Good Time, Disaster Artist.
Franco.
Yeah. Salma Hayek and Beatrice at dinner. I saw that on TV.
Oh, did you?
I mean, it was really kind of silly. Frances McDormand, Margot Robbie. Say that girl's name again.
Saoirse Ronan from Lady
Okay.
Bird.
Right.
I think go up. I think Timothy from Call Me By Your Name.
Slam dunk.
I think that he's got best male lead for this.
All right.
He was so good.
Look, in the supporting, they don't even have up my guy.
Defoe?
Yeah.
Oh, that's surprising. Yeah, that is weird.
And they put Army Hammer in.
And Sam Rockwell.
Well, Sam Rockwell belongs there. What do you think? I was going to pull Sam Rockwell out?
Just because,
Well, I mean,
just
it's
because of the
Independent
Florida
Spirit Awards.
project
Yeah,
stuff.
and it's an independent film.
Still feel that Defoe belongs there before him.
But you're not making sense.
Yeah, that's like not the rule. Like
There
that's
would be
saying,
at least both of them.
Okay.
Your problem is just
you're just that's
Defoe
like
didn't
saying
make it.
how come Jay-Z wasn't at the Country Music Awards? I don't think it's right. I still think he had a better album than these guys.
I would agree with that, though. I think everybody, no matter what the genre is, should be able to show up.
And challenge.
Isn't this weird? Body of Billy Graham arrives in North Carolina ahead of funeral tomorrow. Now, if Billy Graham would have died in his prime, they probably would have given the kids off school. That's how big he was.
Yeah.
And now nobody remembers him because he lived to be 99. It's hard to believe that he beat Barry by 35 years. It's not even close. The fact that Barry's mom is still here. You
I
know?
know. I can't believe that.
And the fact that Chris Stanley's still here.
Yeah.
That one's even weirder.
That's probably the missed weird. But now on when something's weird, let's just call it the missed weird.
It's the mist weird.
The mist weird.
Not
What?
missed.
The mist weird.
Missed.
It's the most weird.
There you go.
Yeah.
The most weird.
All right, that's too fucking
Like
put
you're
much of an
making
emphasis.
weird even is too far. Meow, meow.
Well, I'll tell you something, guys. We're sad today. Sad day for us. To the day, 6 months after losing Fez, we lost Barry Crimmins. I'm not even going to be at the stand this weekend. I would have been able to do that Barbara Streisand thing where I just go into one of Barry's jokes.
Mhm.
as a tribute. So we'll coming up, we're going to be playing the Unmasked that we did with Bobcat and Barry Crimmins. And amazing to me that Bobcat was there when he passed away. Just shoots right through me.
I know. That he got to be surrounded by his wife and his best friend. It's just, yeah.
And I think of Fez just dying alone.
It's making me really sad.
Yeah. 3 days later, they found him.
Jesus.
Yeah, the cat got to him.
Not the face.
Come on, Chris. What do you think? Your bluntness destroys everything, man. I can't tell you how little it helps. Because it's obvious it's the face. The cat isn't going to start at the foot.
I don't know. It's close to the ground. I don't know how he passed it.
Not standing up like an idiot. What is he on his subway holding on to the strap and just went that way?
Oh my God, Chris. Today's not the day for this kind of stuff.
No, today is the last goddamn day that I want to hear this.
All right, no more.
I wish you hadn't even said no more. I wish you just made the zip-a-lock thing across your mouth.
Right, zip.
Or act like you keyed and throwed it away.
All right, I'm locking my mouth.
You don't say it, dude. You just do it.
Locked.
Get me a hammer, Vito. I want to beat Chris with it. Yes, on the feet, since it's closest to the ground. All right, we are going to take a break, and we're going to be back with the Unmasked with Barry Crimmins and Bobcat Goldthwait for Call Me Lucky. And again, just to set this up, those guys have been pretty laid out by this. And this Unmasked will run again tonight at 8 and again at midnight.
8 p.m., 11 p.m., both East Coast times.
Okay. And that's for Jack. And thank you for that, Jack. That's very sweet of you. Gail, would you like to?
Yeah, I mean, this is so hard. And we lost just such an incredible guy. It's going to take us a long time to get our head around it because it's just the impact that he had on all of us here, anybody who knew him, and the comedy community as a whole. That stuff that he probably was never even able to really understand how much his influence meant to people. It's going to take a long time to put our heads around this because it's just so intense. But I'm going to miss that guy so much. I'm going to miss his voice. And I love you, Barry.
We'll be right back with the Unmasked. This is Bennington. Bobcat Goldthwait and Barry Crimmins. Barry, what'd you do? He's got a traveler. It's been a long day for these guys. You're talking about on one hand, of course, it's this documentary, but it is also Barry's life, and to just pick out the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to you and relive it in interview after interview. It's not an easy day for you.
Put it on the big screen. Yeah. Well, there's a line in the movie where you hear Barry not only does he relive it, he revisits a place where this childhood trauma took place, and you hear him say, "And I never have to come back here again," except it turns out every single film festival.
Well, and we don't always sit through the whole film, and I just have this unerring ability to walk right in exactly as the car is pulling up to my childhood home, and that whole period. I mean, and I say, and I'm not coming back here again. Wah, wah.
And then you get to do a lot of interviews and people bringing it up. And it's
it is what I mean. I think I'm pretty good usually.
I think it's almost, Barry is a courageous guy, a survivor. He's changed a lot of people's lives, including himself. And this is just me, I actually think what's been draining on him today is the love and the amount of people calling you a hero, because he just felt he did the right thing when he defended those kids, and so
I don't mean to interrupt. No. But the the big problem I have with the hero stuff is, I'm going to call a hero for behaving decently and noticing things that, oh, I'm sorry, did I disturb you? Let me close the door and walk away. Mm-hmm. People, there's nothing I did that other people couldn't do. I mean, maybe they're not going to run into the same sort of combination of things I have, but I don't want to make it seem inaccessible to people. And a hero is sort of like, well, heroes will take care of that for us, and plus I'm just tired of the whole hero shit.
Well, I understand. I definitely won't call you a hero, but
you're a radio hero.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I am a radio hero, and there's so few of those these days. Yeah.
You bet.
But and there's something, of course, this is the amazing thing to me. Your friend made a movie about you that honestly made me want to be a better person. As I watched this film, I've watched it a couple of times now. And yeah, there are parts that are tough, but there's something that just comes through that I think it appeals to anyone who cares about humanity. And it's not lost on me that the film is made by a guy that you knew since he was a kid and you helped. Right. And these comics.
Yeah, but the subtitle of the film for me has been, boy, was I nice to the right kid that night.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's actually true.
Imagine if I'd been a dick to him.
Yeah.
I'd be out on the street corner going, yeah, listen, what happened to me?
Yeah.
So.
He did tell a young Quentin Tarantino to cram it.
And that broke the right way, too. Because I didn't want one of those movies. I already lived through one of those.
Yeah. Well, after watching this a couple of times, like I said, it didn't occur to me at first, but maybe then finally I'm like, well, this, because I first saw this, I'm like, well, Bobcat is really stepping outside of what he normally does. But then I'm watching this, I'm like, this is really a Bobcat Goldthwait movie at the end of it. It is a dark comedy, and there is these surprises that show up that make you feel like you want to connect with the human condition. It's very much fits in with the rest of your films.
The thing that no one knows. It turns out all of Bob's films are documentaries.
Yeah. Actually, there was parts of this. I'm like, is this fiction? Is this? I hope
there is some fiction in it.
Yeah,
very little bit.
Yeah.
Home movies of Barry's life it would have been easier to get Bigfoot footage, actual Bigfoot footage. So that's fake. So when you see home movies, it's me and my family.
Is that right?
Yeah. And I was talking to my sister after she saw the movie. She goes, "Oh, I cried so much." I go, "Oh, what made you cry?" "Oh, when I saw my birthday." So, and then the other thing is where I'm really a huge phony is when I show up in the movie, and I'm not in a lot of it, but and I show up in interviews, there's no one interviewing me. I'm just sitting there acting all serious going, good question. When Barry moved to Cleveland, there's no one there. I'm talking to an X. I'm talking to an X on the side of the camera, a piece of tape. It was so, in true Barry fashion, that nothing could be cooked. If I asked him to do something, he really would bust my balls. It would be, can you walk now in your yard where you were dragging that log in the winter? Now it's summer, and he's like, yeah, Wizard of Oz, fucking magical. I'm glad it made the movie.
Yeah.
And I have yet to apologize.
By the way, the wood splitting.
Yeah. Let me
I had
apologize
a broken
first.
goddamn knee.
Okay.
And Goldthwait, first, before we have you split the wood, can you drag this tree trunk up a hill on a
It's a
toboggan?
good shot in my defense.
It's beautiful.
60-year-old man, sure.
But the log
There
too.
you
Remember, it weighed like
No,
250
it was a tree
pounds.
trunk.
Yeah.
It was a maple. Now, yeah, I know a maple is heavier than, it was a lady.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, is that his past he's dragging behind him right now? Beautiful.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. I always like when later on people, that was the metaphor, definitely. No, the next one is just going to be him dragging my corpse out into the woods, putting a shallow grave. But when
no, I'm a hard worker. It'll be a nice deep grave.
Yeah. And that's, and Barry's nature is not to say, hey, I got a broken knee,
right.
and I could tell he's discomfort. I was like, well, that's how he always gets out of a chair, so I'm sorry I made you do that.
Yeah, no, but when I turn and I go, this isn't fucking working. That's me saying, sort of directing from the floor, going like, we're not using this shit. 2 minutes into the movie, this isn't fucking working.
Yeah, it's some of the best stuff that works. That's amazing.
And then, and he had never seen the movie until we were sitting together at Sundance. So 2 minutes in, it's what he's asking me not to put in, and he's like,
I think I was pretty good about the stuff I let you put in. One little thing. Never mind.
So yeah.
Well, there was also the scene where you went to a sister to tell her side of the story, which she didn't know was going to be in the movie.
I felt it was key that we have her in the movie, and I think she is super important to Barry. His life, obviously,
saved
him, but also the nature of child abuse is so ugly that people want to attack the people that disclose and come forward. And I knew I needed a witness, so when the people who were going to come after Barry and come after this movie, so I'm very grateful that she's in the movie. But it was awkward.
As with everything, I help funnel a lot of people to Bob to interview, and I didn't try to skew them or talk, tell the truth, because it's important because of the nature of this film and the story. No, I want to. If it came out that I was around telling I would do this or that, I would be this. It just wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. I've been a bit of a journalist, and I just I've done other stuff, and so I have like sort of a code of ethics, and so I just said, Bob's making a movie about me. He wants to interview you, and my sister comes on the movie and goes, well, he said he said you were going to interview me, but I didn't know there were cameras, and it's like, it's a fucking movie. What? Right. But I understand she was, but I just really hardly say anything. It's weird. It's my sister, and I hardly say anything. Mm-hmm. And then she shows up, and and you should. It's like people keep saying to me, it's like it's a real movie.
And that too. Like, I'm sure she probably, even if she didn't know we were interviewing, she probably thought I'd have like a home DV camera. I don't think she was going to realize that she was. That there's going to be giant cameras and big lights and
this, of course, his sister walked in many years ago when this happened, and I'm sure she hasn't said this out loud too many times in her life. So her bravery alone and the beauty of that connection and just the weight of her soul in that scene, it just takes all of us away. Yeah. There's so many, and by the way, and I kid you not when I say this, it's a really funny comedy too. You know what I mean? It's an amazingly funny movie, and then so touching, and then you're introduced to this person that she was so touching in that scene. And it was one of those things, again, makes you want to be a better person, makes you want to love the people in your life more.
Well, I mean, she saved my life. I mean, it very well could have saved my life because it was very close. I was being suffocated because I was getting my head, I was so little, and I was getting my head shoved into this couch cushion, and I was getting asphyxiated. And who knows if that day when she came in, it had been going on, on and off for a while, a number of weeks anyway. And, who knows if that was the time I was going to, and it stopped after that. Even though we didn't really have you don't have context, you don't have a vocabulary for what's going on. I mean, Mary Jo just said to my parents, they were mean to Barry, but the babysitter knew they had a problem. Mary Jo was ridiculous,
Yeah.
And so it just became this sort of thing where my parents, well, we won't use that babysitter. I don't know what the problem is. But Mary Jo, why didn't you behave for the baby? And they were mean to Barry, and that was about it. And, it was the 50s. People weren't thinking, well, why is she so, maybe they were raping Barry. I mean, like, there was.
Yeah, and there's children that didn't even have the language.
Absolutely.
But, when you say, it makes you want to be a better person, that's my whole adult life with Barry.
And you make me want to be a funnier person, prick.
Yeah. That's the thing that came through for, I think it exactly comes through is when we're watching this, all of us sharing that, are we doing what we can? Because the thing about Barry is far apart from this story is just the way that he has carried himself time and time again. Whether he's being a cranky comic or in the scenes that he's before Congress going out to save kids from happening. I mean, to me, that was what I love from the movie is, of course, Barry on stage, the way he's treated other comics, where other comics have treated him, because you look at a guy who's really just a stand-up guy, and it doesn't mean like living above it, but living in it, being a stand-up guy.
And that's the thing I've had to learn was to not take life personally, not take the world personally, just live in it.
Yeah.
I'm in the world. It's not all around me. And I think that's very important for people who've been through things like I've been through. You set up these situations where if you set up this expectation for the whole world to come and apologize to you, you're forgetting that everybody has horrible things they've had to deal with at one time or another. There's various degrees or whatever. But if you set up this situation where everybody's supposed to think in terms of you all the time, then you're just going to end up deciding you're being persecuted and you're going to wallow and you're going to stay in that pit. Well, because that's just not a good approach. And I already lost my childhood to this shit,
Mm-hmm.
And so once I had a chance when I was older, I was like 38 before I really dealt with it. Once I had a chance, God damn it, I wasn't going to waste any more time. I wasn't going to cut corners, but I was going to deal with what had happened to me, try to, get as much healing as possible. And it turned out the trick to healing for me was helping others. I mean, it really was. I mean, I got out of my own way and I was able to do some stuff, like the testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee. That was kind of like a spectacular little moment, but I answer the phone when someone calls. There's people, or someone we see at a film festival that comes up and discloses to me what they've been through, and they're just sort of beginning to deal with it. I mean,
sure.
I've got my caseload has increased significantly.
Yeah. It was, I selfishly, when Barry had written a really funny story in the Boston Phoenix that was all, and it was a great story, and it was about him going to the floor of the Senate. It was really funny. It was well written, but it was, when I read it, I was like, this is a Capra story.
Sure.
And that's why I wanted to make the movie. I was like, this is, and I thought, well, I'm going to write it and another actor will play in it. There were, because I two reasons. I didn't want Barry to relive these events, and then the other reason was I just thought we could get a lot of money. But
it was a real, the commercial possibility.
Yeah.
Left-wing political satirist who came of age in Reagan America, who then, to kind of top the commercial viability, decides to come out and make people think in terms of a 4-year-old boy getting raped. It's
it's
all there.
Yeah.
It's all there.
So I had to tell Tom Cruise, no, you can't play Barry Crimmins. No, so
I would have if you didn't.
And he would have.
Scientology, and they give you a personality test, and if you have one, they they look for the next victim.
But the scenes in front of Congress with. First of all, Congress doesn't understand what the internet is, or
don't worry
about it.
They're like really happy to show how dumb they are about the internet.
I don't get it much, but
and apply that to everything else they do.
So Barry's there to say, he went on AOL, and people are trading child pornography, and of course, Barry is not a hero, but takes it upon himself to go out and stop this giant corporation from doing it.
Because they were profiteering.
Yeah.
In those days, you're on in line for 10 or 12 hours a month. Then it was $3 or $4 an hour to stay online. So all these people in these chat rooms, that one of the second thing they talked about after they were holding their child rape clinics was that the size of their AOL bills. That's what they tell. I $1,400 last month, and you'd see hundreds and hundreds of them. I wonder. It didn't take me long to follow the money and figure out why AOL was dragging its feet.
And Barry shows up in front of Congress, and Congress is like, "Yes, we're going to keep children from seeing pornography." They don't even understand that this is happening. And the amazing part of it is that Barry in front of Congress is not that different than he is at Stitches. He just squares up.
Right.
He just squares up and handles this room. It's amazing.
Yeah, and to me, that's what made me laugh. I think this attorney probably thought, well, he's a nightclub comedian.
Right.
And
you should have thought, he's a nightclub comedian.
Yeah. And it's just like,
and it's drink some whiskey, I might have a problem with you.
Yeah. He just nails the guy a few times hard with and these are
pummels.
These are skills.
Yeah.
These are skills.
By the time he makes the mistake at the end, it's like the 15th round.
You see that the blood has lost its taste.
They're calling in a cut doctor.
Yeah.
He's just I'm blind. I can't see.
He's looking forward, but not at anything, And this is
two things. Wouldn't be in the movie.
Yeah.
Surprise. And the other thing is not an attorney anymore.
Isn't he?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He left the business.
But if you need aluminum siding.
Yeah. Like a lot of people Barry's dealt with over the years, they left the business completely. But
I never knew that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I hope he's doing well.
Yeah. He's better now. Thanks for asking. But just to one of the things that's amazing about his life, and not too long ago, I guess it was like 4 or 5 years ago, I got asked to do this Bill Hicks thing at the Friars Club, and I know John Lahr, the critic, was going to be there, and I go back to read his original stuff, and Hicks is name checking you and using your quotes. So when I talk about when you talk about Barry's career in comedy, it's as important as anybody's. The fact that comics keep coming out of Boston being, to this day, being original, not copying each other's styles, and, just phenomenal comics keep coming out of this one area, has a lot to do with the system that was set up very early on with Barry Crimmins. And that has to do with a morality that doesn't exist in a lot of places.
Well, Barry insisted that that in order to get work in the rooms you were in, that you were original, that you weren't derivative, and that you had your own voice. Mm-hmm. He didn't want many versions of him. He wanted people that were coming up with unique takes and unique.
I know how hard it is to do what I do, and I'm supposed to do it. I never expected anyone else
And then
to
there'd
do
be
that
guys
shit.
that wanted
Just
to get
do
books.
what you're supposed to do.
Right.
There was guys who wanted to get books, so they do versions of him, and he's just like, ugh.
But it's and again, to you, this is just obvious, but this didn't happen in New York or L.A. or Chicago. It's really a Boston
I
thing.
had this Tito moment that when we were doing that last year.
Yeah.
I was hoping I could get on last year to take because I had this great Tito's vodka moment. My father was, my father was the greatest. He was a literal war hero, and I mean the problem with this country is we would rather create veterans than care for them. And I think all recruiting for the military should be done on the top floor of VA hospitals, and then then see who wants to sign up. But he was sick, and he was in a VA hospital in Martinsburg, West Virginia, and it was close, but he pulled through. He was going to be okay for a while. He's been dead for over 20 years now, and I miss him. But I leave there, and I'm poor. I had just been working with you guys in Syracuse, and so I go, well, I'm gonna in Skaneateles, which is Skaneateles is my hometown. It means it's an Indian word that means beautiful lake surrounded by fascists, and so I'm hitchhiking, and I'm gonna go to New York to take that beating, and the comedy club beating, not the New York, not the one you all live through. We try to get up and honk our horns all day. But anyway, it's raining like hell. And this guy who picks me up says, well, I'll drop you out. I'm only going this close. He's kind of scooting around New York because I'm going to Boston. You can go, I'll give you a ride to Boston, but I got to drop you here out in New Jersey. And I mean, it is raining, as we would say, I'm kind of a farmhand. Crazy is coming down, pitchforks and hammer handles. So I go, fuck it. Boston's in the American League, And that's where that's how I ended up in Boston. And think about it. So that's pretty good. Do I get a bottle of vodka?
Yeah, you're going to get a bottle of vodka for that.
Perfect.
But so that was all just a mistake, and then you decided to do it yourself, create that
As
scene.
Kevin Rooney would say, turn into the skid. Well, I mean, I created, whatever I created was because I knew I needed stage time. Yeah. And I'd also been around the country, and I saw comics that were treated like shit so many places. Now, I don't know why you would treat people like shit that you want to walk out on a stage and act like there's somebody before an audience. So all I did was treat people well, and the way literally golden rule stuff, and that's all that happened at the Ding Ho. And a couple of the other things I did was because I knew what it was like. So like these, the comics, their parents would come into the show, and I would give them free Chinese food, keep them out of the kitchen because they didn't want to see what was going on back there. But give them, feed them. You can't pay for anything here. We got you covered. Drinks on the house, and then go over and tell them your kid's great. We're so happy to have Jack or Laura or whoever it is working with us. And you would watch them just change. They come in sort of like, well, we're not quite sure what this is, and they're beaming by the end of the night. This makes the comics' life a lot easier. Like suddenly they've got a lot more support. That adds another level to them being able to walk out on the stage and feel like somebody. So that's all, so be original, and you treat people well. And I did this thing where I took the cover charges that were paid and I split it up and gave it to the comedians. I know it's it doesn't happen.
Well,
I didn't tell people, that it was socialism because, they would have been very upset.
There's a couple guys who would have lost their mind.
The workers seized the means of production, and they just didn't know it.
Yeah. There definitely would have been a couple of people freaked out.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah. What'd you benefit from?
So, I don't know. In reality, the guy's an asshole.
Yeah. He's both, though. That's the beauty. That, you know what I mean? Like, people who said, oh, you know, he's... Because you would hold people to the standards that you put yourself to. There's plenty of your friends who are like, oh, he's a pain in the ass, and I love him. And that's what I think is really beautiful about this film as well, is there's no gloss.
Yeah, but you know, but Barry's
we just couldn't we didn't have a budget for that.
We didn't have a gloss budget. You know, but Barry's, you know, he says it a little bit in the movie, but he's not cynical. I mean, the reason he's angry is that he's
skeptical.
He's looking. He's asking the audience, "Hey, man, we could do a little better." You know, he's asking the comics, "We could do a little better." Doesn't say it as politely as I just did.
Right.
Sometimes they don't know him, so they think I'm just being a jerk. But you know, there's no mincing of words. You know.
Yeah.
And I started welling up a minute ago when I said about Barry. You know, as an adult man, you know, this is, you know, the standard that I could do better, you know, so often I'm out making movies and I'm doing all this stuff and I'm still thinking to myself, man, I hope Barry is cool with it. Not in an abusive way, like in a genuinely, you know, once I got a call.
You can't wait till I die, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
So well, then I'm going to put out the rest of the footage. But
we are doing a sequel. Call me greedy.
So he this story didn't make the movie, but in the middle of the night, I get a call. It's like 3 a.m. and he's like, "Goldthwait, you suck." And he's hammered.
Years ago.
Yeah. And I go
hammered.
Hammered. I go, "Barry, what's wrong?" He goes, "Nothing." This is in the 80s, like when I was relevant. And he goes, "Nothing. I'm just drunk and I wanted to call a movie star and tell him he sucks." He goes, "You suck."
Yeah.
Okay, love you. Bye-bye.
Well, this is another thing, too, about Barry having this eye or just this strange life that you run across the same time. You and Tom Kenny met him when you guys were what age?
Tommy was 15. I was 16. I met Tom when I was 6. We went to Catholic school together. There was a nun whose will I had destroyed, and she was crying, and I was crying because she just grabbed me by the back of my head and dragged me into Tom Kenny's class and said to that nun that was teaching him, saying, "I can't take him anymore," and left me in the classroom. And I was like, oh, I was devastated. I thought, oh, I really fucked up. I'm not going to see my classmates anymore. And Tom Kenny said, at that moment, I was like, I gotta meet this guy. I gotta, you know,
and then you got a laminate.
Like, I know he can make a grown nun cry.
Yeah.
So we became pals. There's an ad that Barry took out for the show that he did in Skinny Atlas Under the Stone, looking for comedians. We answer it. I'm sure convincing Barry that we're grown men, you know, he says, "Sure, come on out." You know, in my mind, I'm Tom Kenny, who's the voice of SpongeBob and does a lot of other voice. In my mind, I'm sure he's doing like a really low voice, you know, like I think Wilford Brimley's coming by to do a set. So. And I remember the first time I saw Barry and the reaction. He's on stage and he's, because he'd write a new act every week because it was the same crowd and it would be the stuff from the pages of the newspaper. So he's writing his act, smoking. In my mind, he's like, there's smoke coming out of his ears even. It's just all this smoke all coming around him. And he looks up and he's like, ugh. The fucking kiddie core. and he put us on stage, despite he put us on stage and
because I didn't have anybody else.
Yeah.
I was writing a new act every week.
And Barry never looked young. At no point. Every shot that you have, you look like an old reliever coming out in the ninth, just to mow down everybody.
He's like
in
Wendy
the ninth.
McDaniel.
Yeah. There's photos of him when he's 9 with a mustache.
Yeah. But that's. I'm not even asking if you believe in fate or destiny or anything, but it's amazing to me that you run across these young people and instead of just kicking them out to the street, you let them hang around their lives are changed
Yeah,
forever.
just
Your
one, I
life-
mean, we named it the movie The Right Thing again and again. I mean, the main reason the movie's named what it is because I didn't become a perpetrator of these heinous offenses against children, or I wasn't, hopefully I'm not, someone that harms innocents. So I'm very fortunate. Who knows if I had been raped a few more times, what would have happened? How far I would have, what would have happened? I don't know. I feel very fortunate that I became a human rights activist rather than a perpetrator of offenses against my fellow humans. So I feel very lucky. And then when you start adding guys like this walking into your life when they're 7, I mean, they were so cute. I mean, they were like hilarious. They come in and, they really look young. And then they go out and they're doing this biting humor. They're funny little motherfuckers, these guys. Yeah. But then afterwards, when we're we get to know each and whatever, and they kind of trust me, and they're being these cutting edge, funny guys, but then the next minute they're asking me for advice on how to get a prom date, and it was so dear, And I mean, it's like the prom date thing that made the bonding moment, oh, I remember that sucked getting a prom date.
And
at the time, I'm like homeless, living in the basement of that. I mean, I'm living like next to the walk-in cooler at that place. No one knows, and fighting rats.
It's like, Mom, shut up. Barry's helping me ask Betsy Woods to the prom.
Is that who you took? Did she? Yeah, that was, we were worried about her.
It was also funny is we're these snide, snarky little pricks with all this energy and all this bile. We were very punk rock. We were but what were we mad about? I mean, we had 3 squares. Like you said, Barry's sleeping next to a furnace, and it was really funny because we had no life to write material about. So Tom Kenny's up there talking about his therapist because he's a big Woody Allen fan. It's like he didn't have a therapist. I'm up talking about my wife. I actually kind of did because I would go up on stage reading a Dear John letter, crying, and then I would go start doing it, and I'd be like, my wife is so fat, and they go, how fat is she? I go, I just told you I don't even have a girlfriend, and I just start crying again.
And that's how funny they were. I mean, that's how funny they were.
Yeah.
You just hit the lottery because the doors open.
And bizarrely different, right? Like, I mean, in the amount of originals that you met in your life. Did you guys go to Boston because
I moved there? Yeah, because Barry did. And then when I get there, he started this club already with folks like Stephen Wright and Paula Poundstone and Lenny Clark and Steve
Kenny
Sweeney,
Rogerson, Mike Donovan,
Tony V, all these people with
legends,
and original voices, Gavin,
Tingle.
And again, Barry was like,
Tingle. I love Tingle.
And again, Barry said, "Hey, man, here's the stage,
right?"
And he didn't say, "Oh, here's this nudge that followed me," and
right.
I was thrilled to see you. I wanted you look at what I pulled off now.
Look at this scam.
It was like a complete hoax. I just bluffed my. Oh no! Here's what you do, and everybody listened,
and it was
hilarious.
And it was anarchy. We talked a little bit about it, and Barry really hated cocaine, and he really feels that that's what ruined that whole scene.
As Tim Walco
ruined all the scenes.
As Tim Walco, the great Chicago comic, says, I don't like cocaine because I don't like to stay up late and complain about my Little League coach.
And I remember once with the Ding Ho, we would put cardboard over all the windows so we could drink all night. And it's about 9 a.m. and the door swings open. I'm still gonna tell the story. I think.
Oh, yeah.
There's the statue. So, and
I mean, there's, you know, I mean, Christ, look at Cosby.
Yeah, true.
You know, we're having a couple of beers. I don't give a shit. You know, like,
so we were. So I'm 19, and you know, I actually been. Not that I talk about this much. I've been sober for 34 years, but this is what. But I'm not here. So I'm drinking, and I'm doing coke, and the door swings open, and it's 3 cops, and they're backlit with sunlight pouring in, and the smoke from everything, and it was very cinematic. And I'm just gacked out of my mind. I'm looking at the cops. I'm like, oh, I'm going to jail, you know. And the cops come in and they go, Lenny, how the fuck are you? And they come down and they sit down and they start doing blow. And I'm like, up is down at that point.
Yeah, right.
I was just like, there's no. And I also remember like,
but the cops didn't want to do it in front of me, which I think is funny.
Yeah, they didn't want the wrath of Crimmins. Hey, is Barry here? Let's be cool. No, he's gone. All right. Yeah. So it was anarchy, you know, and then Barry was you know, asking of us to in a weird way to at least be professional, you know, in the guides of and being don't talk down to the audience. You know, don't you know?
Don't harass. I was never one of those harass the audience guys. Excuse me, am I interrupting? I was never one of those. You know, where are you from? What do you do? You're homosexual. You know, why do women go to the bathroom in pairs? Because they get hassled by drunk men. Write a fucking act. You know, nice shirt. You know, like, well, maybe the guy's got a shitty shirt because he spent his last $5 coming into the show tonight. You know, thanks for wearing that shitty shirt so you could see my act, pal. You know, I mean, I never. On the other hand, if you gave me shit back then, that it was on. But I got too noted for that, so I stopped. After about 3 or 4 years of really hammering hecklers, then I just started Jesusing the fuck out of them, and that was just to make it as boring as. Oh, really? You think so? Huh? Because my act was always new, and I wanted to do new. I wanted to see what they thought of that. And you finish a show, you're dealing with some random shithead. And they go, that was amazing, the random shithead thing. And it's like, I spent, you know, the 3 days.
Anything I said, but you like, because, yeah, you know, like.
Because there's drama at that.
I was there the night, this person was just relentless. And he shuts him down. Then finally goes, you know, usually the batteries run out on a dildo. Yeah. So, but here's another why the Ding Ho wasn't a really good business model is that Barry knew so many people and had a soft touch, so they were all getting in for free a lot. It's like the bar and Cheers wouldn't have made money if Norm was the bartender.
Right, exactly.
It would have been free beer, you know. So
I love George about it.
Yeah, George was great, but it was a bad business model because people were always, you know, Barry didn't give a shit if you had the money, you got in. If you didn't, you got in.
But, you know, from a business point of view, it might not have worked having a socialist at the till. But from an artistic point of view, like I said, I think those echoes of what you set up are still there now. When I see Bill Burr or, you know, Louis C.K., Patrice O'Neill, those guys were raised in that environment.
And there's the other guys that show up in the movie that were removed a little bit, but still, you know, like Mark Maron.
Sure.
And Patton was amazing to me because he was just a fan of Barry and knew so much about him, you know? And other folks that he, you know, like Margaret Cho saw him do a set, and she said to me, and didn't make the movie, but she said, you know, when I saw Barry perform, I realized that, you know, not only could I do comedy, but I could say something when I did it.
She sent me this lovely note a few years ago that said, when I saw you open for Billy Bragg at the Wiltern Theater in L.A., that's when I realized that a comic could be like a rock star. And I went, you know, I wasn't thinking of myself. Although there was that tour with Billy was great, and it's in the movie.
Yeah.
We would do, you know, at the end of the show, they do this thing where everybody does a solo, and they brought me out, and I would have this wood block, like I was going to do a wood block solo, and then I would do a joke, So I did a joke solo, and it was usually my greatest hit, which Hicks quoted in that New Yorker piece. Was like, "You don't love this country when you get out of it, because I don't want to be victimized by its foreign policy."
But in the movie, it's a joke solo. So then all of a sudden, the band kicks back in.
Yeah. And you're also an amazingly bad dancer. I wanted to point that out. While we're saying
when I got that
things.
footage of him dancing, it was backlit. That cassette had angel voices, like oh.
Well, the film also opens up where you're saying that that you really only want to accomplish two more things.
2 things,
left in your life.
If I can just accomplish 2 things, I'll feel like I put my little tile in the grand mosaic of life, and that's, of course, I'd like to overthrow the government of the United States and close the Catholic Church. I mean, you have to, bite-sized.
Bite-sized. Yeah. But when that's done,
it's baby steps.
Yeah. But so there's that fight that, I mean, you're set up, of course, for a fight that you can't win. It's your life's work you're not going to win this fight. How do you keep going with that, Barry? When you truly do want both those things?
Well, play to the ages, not the age.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a book. I have a couple books. They published Mark Twain's notebooks, and there's all these notes in there. And what I think I am opposed to capital punishment. Like Twain kind of formulating his thoughts, and I could see him working out. Then I know kind of what came of it, and how far ahead of his times he was. And I just decided at that point, and not in some haughty way, but play to the age is not the age. In other words, when I write something, I think about what somebody 100 years from now, hopefully their things are a little more civilized, and they look at it and go, this guy, that isn't bad. You know how dumb people were in 2015?
Yeah.
And this works out ours. So,
my money is they're going to discover Jeff Dunham.
Yeah.
It
won't take long.
But it's not. They're not real. But they're talking.
But yeah,
sorry.
No, it's all right. It's just my life's work, Bob. Sort of the whole point.
You're just wrapping it up, putting a bow on it.
Yeah,
I got a zinger about Dunham.
Fucking Jeff Dunham joke. And hey, how about Towley Head? The big, fucking.
So
racist.
you're enough of an optimist that you do believe that we're going to reach some kind of.
Well, no, I don't know. I'm thinking it'll probably suck then too. But I'm not thinking, I'm going to be revered by the world or whatever. It's just some poor bastard like me 100 years from now will go, like, look at this guy. Because I find stuff like that all the time. These little moments in history, which is something my dear friend and my mentor Howard Zinn taught me about being an optimist as a historian. He would find these moments where there's a spark. You didn't know. Someone just took a principled stand and suddenly the prairie's on fire, So, you never know what's going to do it or whatever. But a certain amount of progress is inexorable, and we've had some of it lately. The fucking Confederate flag finally got taken down. Not everywhere, but at least we're allowed to say, oh, well, we have to be thoughtful to the people. I know all sorts of hip people in the South who hate that goddamn thing. I would rather play like a Union Hall in Arkansas than some jaded comedy club in D.C. or wherever. Because those people, it's like you're the Berlin airlift to them. You're bringing, shit in. Like, wow, This guy, come on, he says this stuff in a row. It's great,
Well, I find myself thinking about stuff that you say all the time. I'm still hung up on you being understanding and thankful that you didn't turn into a child molester yourself. I've never heard anyone make that statement.
That's the name of the movie.
Yeah, but that statement of being able to say, I'm not even sitting in judgment of this evil. I just know that it's evil, but I also know where it comes from, and that's an earlier generation of evil. It's
well, one of the things that did want me to tell Barry's story was, and I'm paraphrasing him a little bit, but we were having a discussion, and he had discovered that the guy who had raped him as a kid had died in prison, and he said that made me really sad. And I said, because you didn't get to confront him and you didn't have closure. And he said, no, because he died alone.
He had a bad life, you know,
so,
and then I later came to learn he grew up in, foster homes, and he had been abused a lot himself. And I feel really fortunate that, I was trying to find from New York State, because he died in prison. I was trying to find where his grave was so I could go put flowers on it, not because to honor him, but to say, I didn't become you, Guess who won? Guess what prevailed here? Decency. I'm really fortunate that happened. I am so lucky.
And
Stop it.
No.
Ron's giving me this look.
No, man, I'm blown away, because, I believe in gratitude and service, but I had to really bottom out and rebuild through steps to even get to that point.
Well, I'm not that far ahead of schedule. It's just I bottomed out when I was 4.
Right. Yeah.
So.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's also even more fascinating if it was coming, if it was coming from a guy who was Hugh Beaumont, what I mean? But here's this guy who's fiery.
Well, I'll tell you what, I got to stop you there, because when I was doing the AOL investigation, I had to go through every one of those chat rooms to figure out what these people were doing. I thought I was kind of a spicy guy and involved with a lot of women over the years. And I'm kind of I see what these people are up to, and I'm going, I'm Hugh Beaumont. I'm just like, what? How many, how much devices do you need before you can, get a boner?
That whole,
Jesus.
Also, we're talking about, I'm getting really honest. I don't know if I should tell this story, but I'm about to.
Yeah, I know. You've always been so careful.
How about if I don't name names? I've spent my adult life in a series of relationships, and I've been single recently. And this woman thought, and this is kind of similar to you, like, I don't think I'm a prude. And she brought a whip and said, I've been a bad girl. And I said to her, well, we're all flawed. because it truly freaked me out. Like, I was like, well, that's the human condition. If you're a Christian, you believe you're born with original sin. So it was like, it was kind of like, I checked out, because I was also just like, I would like, sex to be spontaneous. I don't want, I quit acting. You know what I mean? I don't want line.
Yeah.
So, and then
you were never a prop act.
That was never a prop act.
Don't bring stuff in from the outside.
And then I get a text saying, I can't find my whip. I leave my whip at your home. And so I tear it apart and I can't find it. And then the housekeeper put it with the cat toys. Which I guess is the same.
She has a little reading problem. She's cattails and cat toys.
Well, I think also it's the same thing. It's not a real mouse. It wasn't a real whip. It was actually kind of soft.
Which is what I am now hearing that
story. Barry, you had this.
That's the most crotch joke I ever did.
That was the strongest.
Yeah.
What made you, after you had this certain reputation in Boston, you were a really, fast writing, quick thinking comic? What made you decide to open up and kind of out yourself and your past on stage? That's the part of it that's...
Well, when I disclosed on stage what happened to me as a child, and we disclose, we don't admit, guilty people admit, I was a victim. So I disclosed because it was right after the Rodney King stuff. I'd been out in California writing a TV show for someone who's now a Fox News personality. Dennis Miller. And, he was always good to me. I got along with him.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what the fuck happened. But anyway, you know, I wish him the best. He was really good to me. So the Rodney King shit went down, and that right when I really, you know, I mean, I always knew, I never knew, and I was telling my sister, you know, I'm out there, I'm in LA, I'm writing this show, and the two things, there's these two other shows that are right next to us on this lot, with Channel 5, I think, studios, and Fox and LA, and our offices are there, and across the way is Hunks, and above us is Supermarket Sweep. So there's people walking by with like styrofoam meat, and and then there's these gay guys who are being made into the ideal to American women all over it. So it's just like, it's so fucking, you know, why don't you have a show where the gay guys date? I mean, you know, who cares? Right. But so it was just like so weird, and you know, everything was so like so shallow and fucked up, and I was really kind of reaching critical mass. And I'm telling my sister, you know, she kept saying, I gotta talk to you about something, and she had told someone years earlier, a guy who was my painting partner, and I later found out, because I painted buildings, so I later found out from him that, you know, she had mentioned something to him, and so I just said, look, now or never, because I was just about suicidal. I was just, I couldn't go on anymore, and I'm in LA, and it's so vapid. And then the Rodney King shit happens right as I'm leaving town. I mean, like, I'm flying out, and the smoke is rising from the sky, and I feel like I got to do something about that. So I put together a benefit for the Southern Poverty Law Center, and then I'm watching the news and paying attention. And there's a lot of people knocking these kids, you know, in LA. They're like, you know, these kids you got to stomp down. You know, I don't care how. And so I do this show, and I got a bunch of people, a really great lineup. David Cross all these other people were there. And I said, I want to close tonight. Steve Sweeney made the mistake of saying, no, I'm going to be a little late. I want to close. Like, I don't think you want to close this show, Steve. And so, so I go out and I just talk about, you know, I have like a pretty, you know, thorough indictment of American society. And then at the end, I just say, you know, what's the matter with these kids? I'll tell you, I don't know what's the matter with those kids, but I know stuff happens to kids that we don't hear about. You know, they're not spoken for. We don't know where they're coming from. You don't take the time to consider, you know, and in fact, you know, like, for instance, here's where I came from, and I disclosed what happened to me. I didn't talk about it in public after that for another year. I got calls from, like, you know, the horrible daytime talk shows, and it wasn't, you know, I wasn't going to treat it like that. And then a year later, I wrote the Boston Phoenix piece about it. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it is. But how did it feel on stage? Was it empowering for you, or were you vulnerable?
It was heavy. Yeah, I mean, it was really heavy because there's a lot of people in the room. You know, I took the advantage of the fact that a bunch of them hadn't been around town. You know, but everybody sort of came out because I put together, what's he doing back? He's writing the Dennis Miller. What's he doing here? And so, like, a great lineup. Brian Kyle, all these other people are there, and so. I was and then, you know, I told a story, and again, you know, you kind of fade in and out. So I don't really remember what happened, except I know it was pretty choppy. And, you know, the audience was certainly had gotten something that they didn't, you know, they had gotten a bonus they weren't really expecting that night. And then Sweeney got the closer in, and one of the critics really got it right, and the other one went, boy, Steve Sweeney had a tough night last night. So
I thought one of the great things in the film is showing like some of the friends saying, I didn't quite know where to put it. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's one of the reasons why I was bringing up about how amazing the scenes were with your sister, because when something affects one person, it affects everybody.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's what you were trying or said better than I could even comprehend about the evilness moving from generation to generation. Yeah. It also taints the water all around
You
us.
don't pollute part of the pond.
Yeah. And you were able to capture that in the film. Is that something that worried you, Bobcat, going into this? Am I going to be able to tell this story properly?
My biggest concern making the movie was I wanted to make a movie that didn't compromise telling a story that people were engaged in, but more importantly, I wanted to do my friend well. I wanted him to be proud of it, so that was the challenge. And so the big challenge was, as you mentioned, and I'm glad you did point out that you found it funny, was it really needed to be heavy and funny, and and then at the end it's uplifting, And it was funny because when I make a movie, I do it backwards. Like there's certain elements that it should be in most movies to make them well-rounded. There really should be a musical number. There really should be this. There really should be that. And it was someone else just pointed out. I was like, well, where's the love story? And it ends up being, I thought it was the love story between Barry and I. Is that the love story? It's like, well, kind of, but it ends up being, the love story ends up being Barry's love for mankind.
Sure.
Despite everything that happened to him. So Barry's 62-year-old Anne Frank.
It,
that could be let's not turn into Huckabee right now. It's like it's going to be people going, you're not, come on. It's just.
But you could have been cynical about the world, and that did not happen.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's the line from Anne Frank where she says, despite everything.
So yeah, she's amazing.
Too bad she didn't have a friend like me to make a movie.
Yeah.
Get her a little ink.
Well, I said to this early on. It was a couple of viewings before I realized that it did have all the stuff in all the elements that your movies normally have, which is there's always humor and uncomfortability, and then there's some kind of moment.
Boy, he does like to make an audience
squirm. You cringe, but seriously, then you come back in a better thing.
He's got so much more balls than I do with that stuff. I'm Mr. Empathy, so like in one second, I can't do that. No.
Right, but there is empathy at the end of it.
He knows that's where he's getting to.
Right,
so he has this courage. He has the courage to put others through hell. No, he really does, though. It's brilliant. I mean, it's a genius.
Well, thanks. But it was Robin was my pal, and Williams, and his whole thing was that he really mattered that everybody went away liking him. That wherever we encountered, and he was super generous. He would listen. Not only did he make people laugh, but he would listen to what they had to say. He'd laugh at what they had to say. And I would say to him, I go, you want everybody to say thumbs up, and that's impossible. I said, I'm not as interested. I'm more interested in people saying, what the fuck did Bobcat Goldthwait do? And I said, your form of neuroses is way more lucrative. It's not a lot of money in annoying people.
Well, I will say this too, and only because it got said, but we're talking about the service that you do. One night, Ron White was sitting here, and he was telling me when he was at his lowest of low, you and Robin Williams showed up to be there.
I heard that. It was an amazing interview.
And didn't take, by the way, but that has nothing to do with it. But like I said, there's some of that that's learned behavior as we grow and we say, oh, we want to do the right thing. And yet there's stuff in this film that seems like it's organic. For a guy who wants to shut down the Catholic Church, you're certainly one of the more spiritual dudes I've ever
Well, that's a prerequisite.
Yeah. And I do believe in secular saints. I think there are people that live a life, without any hopes of karma or heaven or whatever
Hero
it
is bad enough.
You're
Ron.
doing it. It comes through in this.
Secular
Seriously.
saint.
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh,
hey, can I use
fuck,
that?
here I
Yes,
go.
you can.
For the rest of the press, that'd be great.
I would like you to replace
Secular
Call
saint
Me
is going-
Lucky. Call me Lucky.
Is that
The
a
secular saint movie.
Where is what is the closest bar to this?
Yeah.
I promised I'd make this easy on you, and we actually went too far for you in the other direction.
Well, I think
Yeah.
and both he and I have been fragile, and it's just it's like it's not. I think what happened is that the movie worked.
Yeah.
Neither of us expected that.
Right.
I mean, I just keep, I go full steam ahead and I keep trying to make movies and I don't really think, but the response, we have these screenings and like, adults come up and they're crying and they're hugging us and they're disclosing and, I'm a misanthrope. I don't want to hug strangers, so I'm kind of steering them over to Barry.
I'm a misanthrope. I'll do anything for people so long as they stay away from me. But I have to disagree with you on that because I had great faith once you started making the film that it would be pretty strong. And false modesty aside, I thought it had a pretty good story. So, I'm. A lot of the business stuff and whatever and how the media, I couldn't expect it to just kind of surge or us to be honored by 7 film festivals and to be a selection at Sundance and all the amazing stuff that's happened on sort of the business and promotion end of this thing. But going into it, I knew it would be, I knew it would be good. Part of the reason I knew it would be good, Robin was still with us, but, he was behind it too, and it's amazing that this film was a result of one of his last quiet acts of generosity. And I must say, I've never met anybody like Robin. I know everybody did love him. I've never known anyone who was as present with everyone he spoke with. Whoever it was, he kind of squared up with them and listened to them and knew they were there, heard what they had to say, and that's really hard. That's hard for me. Doing what I've done, I didn't have the level of, and with him, every day he was like in a meteor shower, Well,
it was like walking around with Mickey Mouse. Seriously, the reaction. I remember taking him into this snarky store in L.A. that sells art and things, and all these tattooed gals with piercings, and they didn't. They wouldn't give me the time of fucking day when I need service at the counter, and I bring him in, and they're going ape shit, and I'm like, seriously,
Yeah.
back off, blue hair. It was really funny how it didn't matter all walks of life. People just, he connected with people, so it was weird to he I don't know, did we talk about it? He knew Barry's story and was a fan and knew that I was trying to make a movie without, that would have been a narrative that Barry wasn't in. Someone would be playing him because I didn't want him to go through all these events again. And
you didn't want me to go through.
And so he suggested that I do it as a documentary, and that was in February 14, he gave me the initial money to start filming.
You keep saying February 14, and I keep thinking Valentine's Day.
No, I meant
2004. Okay, gotcha.
But 2014. But so
this would be a weird movie to start on.
Yeah, this would be if you see one Valentine movie this year,
date movie of the year.
Yeah. But
excuse me. Did Robin get to see?
No,
he saw footage though.
He didn't see footage. He would know what I was up to. I truly didn't have a friend that I actually was closer with. We text and spoke almost every day. Even in these last couple of years, even more. So he was my best friend. So So he knew what was going on. He would talk about this movie going to Sundance, and I would tell him to go fuck himself, and he was right. So it was weird. It premiered in the same theater that that World's Greatest Dad premiered in.
Isn't that amazing? And I do kind of feel whatever that Robin thing is there. Maybe it's because you made it and you made the film with him before, but there is that kind of sensitivity and pain and humor that just carries through.
And the movie is Bob dedicated the movie to Robin, so that's really.
And I'll think, it sounds corny too, but sometimes I think of, normally at this phase of the movie, I would be on to my next movie.
Sure.
And I think of what, the reasons why we made it. I said that to Barry in the middle of it at one point. I said, I think we're making this movie for the same reason. And it was when I was asking him to do something that was rather challenging. And often I think, what would Robin wanted? And I know he would want me to promote it. I know that he would want me to be happy, and everyone has their own theories and stuff, but I Robin had a thing called, his coroner's report came out, and it was Lewy body dementia, which his brain was riddled with. And I'm not a doctor, but I know that it's a form of dementia. I did see this change, and it wasn't a change where someone's up or down, my friend got sick, and that's why he passed away. I think it's the human condition to think, well, I'm depressed, or I suffer from X, Y, and Z. But I really think that's what got him.
Bob was shooting it the day it happened, and he sends me a text 3 or 4 hours before it hit the news, and it's such a weird.
It was even worse than that. It was. I shot the last scene in the movie. I said, "That's a wrap on Call Me Lucky." Check my text, and that was it. So I had about,
I know you had Cindy Sheehan there. And
it's just been. It was like
to know that was. I was just watching CNN and to wait for that to hit, Bob. Knowing this fucking shitstorm was going to hit with all these people who are going to make it about them, and to be so, ripped up over Robin, but so worried about you, and that you went on and finished this thing, edited it, put it together, and got it to Sundance like a few months later.
Well, it was
unbelievable.
It was a really good year. I went through a divorce. My best friend killed himself, and then my girlfriend and I broke up decorating the Christmas tree. But when things got really dark, I could edit a movie about my best friend getting raped when he was 4. So my other best friend. So it was just what I'm saying is 2014 ripped my cock off. It was the worst fucking year, but
it's also
talk about found footage.
Yeah. It's got to be the strangest thing to lose a loved one when the entire country loves that same person on one level or another.
Yeah, I spent the time with his loved ones, his kids, his wife, his even his ex-wives, his all these people, and everybody. The wagons were circling, and we were all trying to. So I didn't have to deal with. I didn't know what was going on in the press. I didn't care. It didn't affect me. It had nothing to do with it. I lost my friend, and that's all. But it's kind of weird because in life, well, I don't know. I think you can relate to this. I spent a lot of time trying to make myself not better than people or not less than people, but just on the same plane. Mm-hmm. And then you have something that's so unique and weird happen that truly there isn't a support group for that. I mean, you can't, what I'm supposed to do, call Prince Charles and say, yeah, you know, when you have someone close to you and everybody else, only
the Kennedys.
Kennedys so everybody else can weigh in, but I understand that's just this guy that he projected, and it was a part of his wonderful character and his innocence. But it's funny. I was talking to some people that were very close to him, and they were going, and one of them goes, he never said a bad word about anyone, and I started laughing, and I was like. Oh, you're serious? I was like, oh, he said many bad words about many people. And, and his wife said, well, he only told you.
Well,
so I'm the list keeper. You know what I mean?
Sure,
Like,
you know.
if I had actually tuned into TV, I'm sure I'd been making some calls. Hey, get off the fucking air.
Right.
Well, I'm the hypervigilant rape survivor, and I know I got a list if you need it. There were
But
some
that's
people.
okay. I mean-
Like one guy went on TV and went on a website and said, "Well, we lost Robin because of depression." Like coming up with their other diagnosing,
Sure.
But thanks to the Affordable Care Act, you have got to be fucking kidding me.
And I really have gone out of my way not to talk about it too much. Now I'm starting to come out of this, but it's I didn't make much of a relationship publicly when he was here. So, it wasn't,
Right.
It seemed weird to go to the press when they were all asking.
But I think it's like this is an interesting thing to dedicate this film to him, because the part that reminds me of, it's hilarious, it's sad, it's tragic, it's sensitive. It's all the things that he would always try to bring in to every and then finally uplifting is all in this. And to have him, be the guy who ponied it up. And then, you sit and think, what is the more interesting role here? To have been a young man who grew up into a great filmmaker and is ready to make this film for his mentor, or to have lived the kind of life that somebody that would make that film about you. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing film. Call Me Lucky. Make sure you say it. This is Bobcat Goldthwait and Barry Crimmins. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that okay, partner?
Thanks, John. Thank you.
Thanks so much.